instantaneously, propelling Mole's speed to more than double, creating distance from Batul. At that moment, Batul's white spines struck the empty air. The rear of the white spines housed a translucent energy core, within which a pearlescent energy swirled slowly, its luminosity intensifying dramatically at the moment of the spine's projection, emitting a dazzling pearly light. The warning from Xuanji reached its zenith. A strong gravitational distortion field has been detected. The space before and around Batul began to warp violently, the surrounding area stretching, twisting, and tearing apart, resembling an object observed through intense heat waves, yet magnified 100-fold. The starry sky in his vicinity transformed into grotesque, ever-changing abstract lines and color blocks. Subsequently, this warped space came to a halt. A faint sound emerged, and spiderweb-like cracks instantaneously spread across that expanse, shattering like glass. A tumultuous torrent of 10 colors surged forth. Batul's strike had even ruptured dimensional space. Quite perceptive, Batul scoffed, noting that Mole could indeed sense his white rainbow singularity gun. Retracting the white rainbow singularity gun, the loss of continuous energy supply caused the dimensional space to rapidly converge and revert to normalcy. In the distance, Mole furrowed his brow. Batul's two weapons were increasingly extravagant, their energy consumption terrifying, far beyond what an ordinary star-ring-level mech could sustain. This must be a singularity-level mech. It was undoubtedly of singularity caliber. Such a level of resonance could only be connected successfully by a singularity-level pilot, concluded Xuanji through comparative analysis of gathered information. Gravitational weaponry. Mole fixed his gaze intently on Batul's white rainbow singularity gun. Such weapons had existed in the Empire of Flame Dragons, yet their energy demands were immense. Only special mechs or colossal warships could meet their needs. Noticing Mole's overload, Batul showed no inclination to retreat from danger. Instead, he activated his engine to close in. At this juncture, Mole dared not even make contact. A mere graze from either of these weapons would not be trifling. Retreating once more, he began to utilize the fire control system in an attempt to lock onto Batul for supply. However, as a melee enthusiast, Batul was already adept at evading various fire control systems. Wait, is this a preemptive strike? Observing a robust beam of energy approaching, Batul's pupils constricted. Without a moment's hesitation, he thrust forth the white rainbow singularity gun, causing the space ahead to distort instantaneously. The beam, upon entering this warped realm, also twisted and disintegrated. This is truly delightful. The threat of death only exhilarated him further, igniting a fervor within him. In the moment the vibrant torrent of colors appeared, he surged towards Mole. The floating artillery beside Mole disassembled and returned to his back. This individual's gravitational weapon was not only formidable in offense, but also in defense, leaving Mole with an overwhelming sense of helplessness. As Batul charged at him once more, Mole had no time to ponder and continued to retreat. Initially, it was Mole who was overloaded, yet this exchange caused Batul to lose his patience. Is dodging all you can do? Resist me. Resist. Batul roared, activating several miniature thrusters on his arms, significantly increasing his attack speed. This velocity rendered the reaction speed of the Holy Radiance Arbiter inadequate, compelling Mole to engage the jump engine and vanish from sight in an instant. Observing this, Batul thrust the white rainbow singularity gun into the void, distorting the gravitational field once again, forcing Mole, who was in the midst of a jump, to materialize. Got you. Batul sneered as he charged forward, thrusting the entropic molecular disintegration blade with ferocity. He imagined the gaping holes that would appear on the Holy Radiance Arbiter from this strike. However, the subsequent events left him utterly astonished. The Crimson Judgment had been concealed unbeknownst to him, and the floating artillery wings embedded in Mole's back. As Mole deftly sidestepped the thrust, he delivered an impeccably precise punch to the end of the white rainbow singularity gun. Following this, Mole closed in on Batul, and in his stunned gaze, he brought his elbow down, striking the joint of the entropic molecular disintegration blade. Batul instinctively attempted to activate the white rainbow singularity gun, only to find it completely unresponsive in that instant. Immediately after, he received another punch from Mole to his shoulder. This was seemingly just the beginning. As time progressed, Batul noticed a slight delay in every command he issued to his mech. It was this very delay that allowed Mole to consistently evade his attacks with uncanny precision while mounting swift counterattacks. Most crucially, the white rainbow singularity gun had yet to be employed even once. Mole had it firmly in his sights, interrupting its activation time and time again, which left Batul feeling utterly frustrated. The entropic molecular disintegration blade was rendered ineffective as every offensive maneuver was sluggish, easily dodged by Mole. This sense of being toyed with ignited Batul's fury. You have successfully provoked me. Is this a technique of your combat mech? Unfortunately, with the kinetic energy of your machine, It will take you 2 more years to shake my flesh. Batul sneered. Once you overload, your demise shall follow. Emoli could not hear his taunts. In the state of overload, his mech's reaction speed and attack level had ascended to a new tier, indeed capable of unsettling Batul's transmission system. However, the health bar of the Batul seemed rather robust. After a series of relentless assaults, Batul's retaliatory strength was consistently similar, and unwelcome memories surged forth, darkening Mo Li's expression. He keeps chattering on the channel, Xuanji remarked. Ignore him. Mo Li maintained a stoic demeanor, relentlessly pressing the attack. His fists, feet, elbows, and knees had all become his weapons. The Radiant Judgment was intentionally designed to enhance these parts, and although it could not rival the combat mechs of the same class, under Mo Li's relentless assault, its lethality was unparalleled. Yet, as these attacks landed on Batul, they felt merely like a tickle. Throughout the confrontation, Mo Li discerned no effective feedback from his strikes against Batul. A wave of long-buried memories washed over him, darkening his expression. With a swift kick, he sent Batul sprawling but chose not to pursue further, instead halting in place. Batul, already feeling assured of victory, recognized Mo Li's cessation and the rapidly diminishing tail flames of his mech, indicating that the overload period had concluded. Stopped, have you? Now it is my turn. Batul sneered. At that moment, Mo Li opened the public channel. You remind me of some rather unpleasant memories. Batul was puzzled by the implication. Rest assured, what follows will be etched in your memory for a lifetime. The Radiant Judgment had nearly depleted all its energy reserves after an extended overload, its glow now dimmed. You are a singularity level, are you not? Only just realizing that now? But alas, it is too late. Batul laughed maniacally, his voice echoing through the channel. You are formidable. Had your mech been of superior quality, perhaps I would have struggled to withstand your onslaught. Alas, this mech is simply too weak. This is why I disdain those of higher rank who rely solely on their mech's capabilities to fight. And what are you cackling about? Mo Li's tone turned icy. Is it merely because your mech boasts a higher rank? Batul assumed Mo Li was unraveling, laughing maniacally. Indeed, a high-ranking mech allows one to act with impunity. Why strive for strength if not to bully the weak? However, amidst Batul's laughter, the mech's interior was flashing red in alarm. Warning. Anomalous dimensional fluctuations detected. Warning. Unknown spatial turbulence detected. Warning. Ultra-high energy level reaction detected. Please evade immediately. Warning. Spatial particle fluctuations detected. A barrage of warnings flooded the screen, and Batul turned in horror as the nearby space seemed to solidify, subsequently cracking like a mirror shattered upon the ground. In the next instant, the void shattered, revealing not the vibrant torrents of the dimension, but rather a retracting fist. The crimson alerts sent Batul's heart racing. His mech's AI, of high caliber, discerned the present threat, and its warnings continued to proliferate. The rift in the void appeared to be healing rapidly, but in the following moment, a pair of mechanical hands emerged, grasping either side of the void. Batul noted that energy coursed through those hands. Then, as if tearing through fabric, the void was ripped open, and Batul beheld a mech. The 10 directions of silence, in a state of battle damage. Each combatant believed their high mech rank granted them absolute freedom, as if only their mech's superiority mattered. As the radiant blue light flickered from the judgment of Saint Radiance, Mo Li instantaneously vanished within the confines of the mech. The moment the colossal machine materialized, Batul felt as though his very soul was on the brink of freezing, a remaining instinct urging him to flee this ominous place. The dimensional engine ignited, rendering Batul's form a mere blur. Yet, in the next heartbeat, that formidable mech inexplicably vanished from its position, and Batul was struck with the sensation of a tremendous blow, the surrounding cosmos swiftly retreating. Upon opening his eyes, he discovered that the mech had somehow seized his throat and was soaring at an alarming speed. Chapter 106. Overwhelming Batul's pupils constricted as he raised the white rainbow singularity gun, thrusting it forward with force, causing the space around him to solidify. A glimmer of hope sparked within him. Yet in the following instant, the space shattered, and the anticipated spectacle of the mech disintegrating did not unfold. Instead, it appeared alongside the vibrant torrents of the dimension. How could this be? Batul exclaimed in disbelief. Why did the gravitational field's collapse have no effect on you? Mo Li remained silent, lifting him by the neck. Batul struggled, thrusting the entropic molecular disintegration blade towards the arm of the 10 directions of silence with ferocity. Clang. Mo Li didn't even activate a shield. Batul's blade vibrated against the armor, utterly failing to leave a mark. Do you sense it? The crushing weight of a mech of superior caliber. Mo Li's voice was cold and unyielding. Batul's expression shifted dramatically. The entropic molecular disintegration blade and the white rainbow singularity gun were his proudest weapons. With these two in hand, even other singularity-class mechs had approached him with trepidation. Since acquiring this mech, He had never encountered one that was entirely unperturbed by his armaments. When the very source of his confidence was ruthlessly shattered, all that remained for Batul was terror. What is this? Is this a ruins-level mech? Impossible. There are but a few ruins-level mechs in the Federation. It cannot be you. Why is it impossible? Mo Lee's lips curled into a smirk. Are you unable to accept the existence of something stronger than yourself? No, it cannot be. It cannot be you. Fear consumed Batul's heart. His weapons had failed him, and the grip of 10 directions of silence rendered him powerless. This overwhelming despair caused his once proud spirit to collapse within mere moments. Impossible? Mo Lee chuckled. There is much you remain unaware of. With that, 10 directions of silence clenched his other fist, drawing his elbow back and aiming at Batul's cockpit. In a flash, as if a frame from a film had been abruptly removed, 10 directions of silence's fist was suddenly poised against Batul's cockpit. Batul braced himself for death, yet in the blink of an eye, he saw the fist halt mere inches from his face. A surge of elation washed over him. Though the reasons for Mo Lee's mercy were unclear, survival meant there was still hope. Just as he began to articulate his thoughts, Batul was stunned to see the onboard AI alert him. Warning, the empathy system has been disconnected. Warning, life signs of the mech's host have ceased. Energy supply to the mech has been interrupted, entering sleep mode. How could this have happened? In a fleeting moment of doubt, Batter's body suddenly lost all support, collapsing limply. Enveloped in his combat suit, he resembled a mass of liquid, sprawled upon the cockpit floor. Mo Lee released the connection with the mad laughter, and the machine remained suspended quietly in the vastness of space. A flash of blue light signaled Mo Lee's return to the nearly depleted Radiant Arbiter, while Shifeng Ji turned and shattered the void before him with a punch, subsequently stepping into the dimensional turbulence and vanishing from sight. Piloting the Radiant Arbiter, Mo Lee approached the mad laughter and severed the empathic link. Inside the cockpit, he rubbed his hands together, having consumed a significant amount of Shifeng Ji's energy. Hoping that this mech would allow him to recuperate his losses, he opened the hatch and, with the aid of his combat suit, ventured into space to reach the entrance of the mad laughter. Placing one hand upon its sensor, Xuanji quickly accessed the mech's systems, causing the hatch to open in response. Upon entering, Mo Lee first dragged the heap of combat suit from the floor and discarded it, before taking his seat in the cockpit. Empathic connection established. In the rusty star domain, since Mo Lee's sortie, Seabass and the others had been consumed by anxiety. The probe could not capture visuals from that location, but the energy levels reported indicated the presence of 2 suspected Star Ring-class mechs. Seabass's expression changed dramatically, however, with only a few Judgment-class mechs at their disposal. Engaging in such a high-level battle would be tantamount to suicide. Not only would they be of no assistance, but they would also become hostages, hampering Mo Lee's efforts. They could only stifle their concerns and place their trust in Mo Lee, amidst their restless waiting. They were greeted with the disappearance of the energy signatures from the 2-star Ring-class mechs, prompting cheers from the group. Even Seabass, usually composed, was visibly shaken. He understood better than anyone the implications of 2-star Ring-class mechs. It was indisputable that such entities could not be dealt with by mere fleets. If they were on a planet, they would undoubtedly be planet destroyers. The primary distinction between Star Ring-class and Judgment-class mechs lies in the capability to wield antimatter weapons, turning them into absolute war machines. On any large battlefield, the emergence of a single Star Ring-class mech could sway the tide of battle. The Star Ring-class had been vanquished. Mr. Mo is invincible. How extraordinary. As the crowd celebrated, the energy detector suddenly shrieked. It detected an ultra-high energy response. An unidentified entity. Singularity level. It suggested immediate evasion. The alarm rendered everyone momentarily stunned, with Seabass wearing an expression of disbelief. The Council had dispatched a Singularity-class mech due to a chaotic star domain? His complexion paled as he realized that while Mo Lee's Star Ring-class mech still possessed combat capability, it was likely a strain to achieve victory. Confronting a Singularity-class mech now would leave them with no chance of survival. Seabass panicked, but he calmed slightly at the sight of Mo Lee's mech's energy levels remaining stable on the detector. However, as the two mechs collided, the energy readings fluctuated wildly, and Seabass could no longer maintain his composure. Several legislators aimed to sow chaos in the star domain. At this moment, Seabass was preoccupied with his desire to connect with the Counselor Meng Yang and Tucker in search of an opportunity. The emergence of Singularity-class mechs posed an insurmountable challenge. No matter how formidable Mo Lee was, he could not contend with them due to the staggering disparity in their mechanical capabilities. What weighed heavily on Seabass's heart was that Meng Yang was utterly unresponsive to communications, and Tucker was similarly unyielding. The readings of energy collisions in the distance caused the sensors to flicker like waves, plunging the hearts of all present into a profound despair. The confrontation of Heavenly Punishment class against Singularity class left them utterly bewildered as to how victory could be achieved. With the legislators unreachable, Seabass cast a resolute glance at the others and declared, "I will seek out that Singularity class mech." "Boss, have you lost your mind?" Someone exclaimed in shock. "If you go there, the residual energy from the Singularity class weapon could obliterate you." "No," Seabass replied, his voice steady. "Mr. Mo fights for us. But with the arrival of the Singularity class mechs, we have surpassed our capacity for resistance. The only option left is to surrender. If my life can be exchanged for Mr. MOS, I would not hesitate." He expressed his gratitude to the esteemed figure in the ink robes for their recognition and support. Without further ado, he stated, "Tomorrow, there will be 4 updates." With that, Seabass fell silent and turned to head toward the mech hangar. However, shortly after he departed, he was urgently summoned to halt his advance. Boss, anomalous energy fluctuations have appeared. The sensors are malfunctioning." "What?" Seabass was taken aback. Among all the detection devices, the energy sensors were the least likely to fail. How could they suddenly malfunction during such a critical confrontation? The situation in the distance grew increasingly enigmatic, and Seabass's apprehension deepened. A troubling thought flickered in his mind. The failure of the energy sensor could stem from a few normal scenarios. Either it was damaged by a widespread attack, or, more alarmingly, a sudden surge of ultra-high energy had caused the readings to spike. At this moment, Seabass suspected the latter was more probable, given the Singularity class mech's potential for extraordinary weaponry. "I must investigate." Seabass mounted his recently repaired mech, igniting the engines and propelling himself into space. Behind him, the others, including the brash Lao Chi, gritted their teeth and followed suit. One by one, the mechs departed, leaving the remaining individuals in a state of worry. The recent explosion of the energy readings had been exceedingly alarming. Seabass and his companions flew at full speed toward the original location of the energy sensor, adjusting their course as they sped ahead. However, as they drew nearer, an unsettling feeling enveloped them. Ordinarily, a reaction from ultra-high energy would elicit a brilliant display of light. Yet inexplicably, this sector of the star domain was eerily silent, devoid of any illumination. As they approached, they finally beheld the scene before them. 2 mechs hovered in the air, motionless. After confirming that they were not Mo Lee's mechs, the group stared in astonishment at the gaping wounds in the cockpits. Realizing that these were indeed the 2 Starring-class mechs, the Starring level mech floated in the vastness of space, a sight that would have rendered any of its kind an unchallenged monarch in their chaotic star domain. Yet now, it lay amidst the debris of the cosmos. A profound silence enveloped the onlookers, though a flicker of hope ignited within their hearts. After all, defeating 2 Starring level mechs was akin to a miracle. However, what they beheld next was the engine-failed Holy Radiant Arbiter, alongside the erratic and swift movements of the Laughing Echo. Pallor washed over their faces as they witnessed the staggering speed of the Laughing Echo, a velocity that far surpassed that of the Heavenly Punishment level. From a distance, it appeared merely as a frenzied black blur. It was over. Demang's expression turned grim. Mr. Emoli Seabass wore a troubled visage and sought to connect to the public channel of that mech. An invisible wave was emitted, and to their astonishment, the other party accepted the connection. "Oh, Seabass, you all arrived." Just as Seabass prepared his response, contemplating how he might at least provide Mo Lee with a proper retrieval, he was rendered speechless. At that moment, even with Seabass's vast experience and insight, his mind momentarily faltered. Countless possibilities flashed through his mind, yet none could rationally explain the current predicament. As for Demang, Lao Chi, and Lao Chung, they were completely lost, grappling with existential confusion. They had taken down 2 Starring level mechs and 1 Singularity level mech. This what? It took Seabass a considerable time to regain his composure. "You arrived at the perfect moment. Help me drag these mechs back." Mo Lee, who was previously vexed about how to return, now found himself with enough comrades, each assigned a mech to tow back. On their journey home, Demang and his companions could hardly fathom the outcome. Dragging the mechs felt surreal, almost dreamlike. "Wait, Demang, have we perhaps perished and returned to the embrace of our mother star?" Lao Chi asked, uncertainty lacing his voice. "Are you asking me?" Demang scratched his head in confusion. Lao Chi was taken aback, quickly realizing he must have lost his senses to pose such a question to Demang. Meanwhile, Mo Lee, after becoming acquainted with the Laughing Echo and its celestial resonance system, realized the mech was quite unconventional. Nearly all its functions were concentrated around its 2 weapons, and the internal systems mirrored this focus. The energy circuits and core engine of the entire mech were primarily dedicated to serving these weapons. Compared to other mechs documented by Xuanji, this one was decidedly specialized. However, such specialization yielded an extraordinary lethality. The White Rainbow Singularity Gun's ability to create a gravitational field that shatters the void could easily disregard shields. annihilating the majority of mechs. Any mech that fell victim to its strike would find itself disintegrating along with the fabric of space. The entropic molecular dissociation blade was no simple weapon either. If not for the unique properties of the Shifang silent material, it likely would not withstand the weapon's disintegration effects. Nevertheless, it must be acknowledged that this was a singularity-level mech, and it would undoubtedly fetch a handsome price. Xuanji expressed his elation. Wait a moment. Emoli interjected. I can pilot this mech. Taking him to confront other Singularity-class mechas would surely yield precise results. Singularity-class mechas are not as common as cabbages. Emoli furrowed his brow. Acknowledging the truth in this statement, it was indeed the provocation of 2 senators that had compelled the emergence of a Singularity-class mech, yet the subsequent developments remained uncertain. For now, one might observe the situation. If an irresistible offer were to materialize, it would not be entirely out of the question. As Mo Li and his companions returned to Rust Star with their spoils, the 2 prominent senators were also apprised of the battle's outcome. Chen Yao nearly leapt from his seat, his astonishment unmistakable. How could this be possible? Batul had been slain. At this moment, Chen Yao could no longer remain composed, pacing back and forth as dread gradually contorted his features. He alone understood how he had come to hold his position. And Batul had been a vital asset provided by the opposition. With one Singularity-class pilot now deceased, he felt as though he had lost a limb. Moreover, Batul's weaponry was of significant utility. At this juncture, Chen Yao was thoroughly disoriented. Batul's demise not only signified an impending reckoning for him, but also indicated his diminished capacity to confront the chaos of the Singularity-class pilots. The remaining Singularity-class pilot could not guarantee victory over Batul, and dispatching him without knowledge of the enemy's strength would likely result in further losses. As Chen Yao anxiously contemplated his course of action, a communication unexpectedly came through. The fact that it had breached his consent sent a shiver down his spine. Trembling, he activated the communication, greeted by a voice barely containing its fury. What transpired? The permissions for Batul's mech system have been altered. Chen Yao's countenance paled instantaneously. Certain mech systems at the punishment class singularity level required special permissions to be activated, which should not ordinarily be susceptible to intrusion. The alteration of mech system permissions, barring the pilot's voluntary action, could only result from violent intrusion. Should that moment arrive, the fate of the pilot was all too predictable. Clearly, with Batul gone, the mech would cease to exist as well. Even the opposing party, having lost a Singularity-class pilot and a mech, would bear the burden of this loss for a considerable duration. I dispatched him to the chaotic star domain, where a formidable power lurks. Chen Yao stammered, steeling himself. It was there that Batul had lost contact, and he suspected the presence of another Singularity-class pilot. The other party fell silent, yet Chen Yao felt an invisible weight pressing upon him. Perhaps Batul was not dead. They might lack the audacity to slay a Singularity-class pilot. It was conceivable that he had merely been imprisoned. Chen Yao found his thoughts flowing coherently, articulating fervently that the goal of the Chaotic Star Domain's faction was to obtain Federation citizenship, with their leader, Victor, acutely aware of their capabilities. Should they have indeed slain Batul, there would be no room for negotiation. The other party seemed swayed, remaining silent as they pondered the possibilities. If the loss were merely that of a mech, it could be replaced in due time. However, the loss of a pilot would be an irrefutable catastrophe. Cultivating a Singularity-level pilot is not merely a matter of resources. It requires an amalgamation of talent, luck, and other essential elements. The current situation, shrouded in ambiguity, is infuriating. Even for him. As for Chen Yao, he is consumed by thoughts of vengeance. It is imperative that I ascertain the full trajectory of events within 3 days. As you suggested, Chen Yao wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, prioritizing urgency over all else, and hastily sought assistance. Help me establish contact with the Chaos Star Domain. With the Dreaming Congress, the loss of 2 starring-level pilots weighed heavily on her conscience. Both starring levels have been defeated. Dreaming's grip on her cup tightened, her inner turmoil evident. The 2 starring pilots dispatched should have easily overturned a star domain, yet they silently perished in the Chaos Star Domain. Though Dreaming had numerous pilots at her disposal, the majority were scattered across various star domains. The loss of these 2 starring pilots inflicted considerable pain, particularly as their demise severely hampered her operations near the North Falling Star Domain. Emoli. Dreaming's gaze fell, acknowledging his prowess. Your Excellency, what are we to do about the North Falling Star Domain? She cast a frosty glance at the individual beside her. If 2 starring levels cannot overcome him, and Singularity-level pilots are currently unavailable, what is to be done? The man was drenched in cold sweat, wishing to strike himself in frustration. He found himself ensnared in a predicament where any comment could prove disastrous. I will not let Emoli escape. Dreaming's voice was icy, however. With the upcoming Federal Academy League, my presence is required. until I can mobilize a singularity-level pilot. As she spoke, an urgent message flickered across the star network. Upon reading it, astonishment washed over her face. What? Batter has been defeated? Dreaming was taken aback, while she could accept the defeat of her 2 star ring-level pilots. The loss of a singularity-level pilot was utterly unacceptable. The fall of a singularity-level pilot would undoubtedly make headlines, but the news had remained contained, likely due to the isolated nature of the Chaos Star domain. Dreaming had received this information only because she had been closely monitoring developments in her efforts to seize control of the region. Who disseminated this information? Is it credible? Dreaming inquired urgently. It is highly probable that Chunyao's faction has descended into chaos. Dreaming furrowed her brow in contemplation. Batter was a singularity-level pilot, and the chasm between singularity and starring levels is vast. How could Batter have lost? Was there someone else backing Victor? This was indeed troubling. She needed to reassess the costs of conquering the Chaos Star domain. There cannot be anyone else. After a moment of thought, Dreaming vehemently shook her head. If there were others involved, they would not collaborate with him, and when Victor sought her demise, he was undeniably resolute, regardless of the circumstances. In the eyes of both Chun Yao and Dreaming, the Chaos Star domain had now become intertwined with singularity-level pilots. Could it be that the Star River Academy had taken action? At this moment, Mengyang felt her mind engulfed in chaos. Was it truly necessary for several singularity-level pilots from the Star River Academy to travel thousands of miles to the northern Falling Star region merely to seize this disordered star territory? It seemed utterly improbable. The value of the chaotic star region for Mengyang lay in nurturing insects, while for Qinyao, it resided in underground transactions. For a powerful entity like the Star River Academy, it held no significance whatsoever. Moreover, given the vast distance, managing such an endeavor would be exceedingly challenging. If they had the energy, they could simply purchase their own star domain. The more Mengyang pondered, the more she sensed the peculiarities permeating the chaotic star region. She found herself unclear about the intentions of Mo Li and others. However, to let them go was out of the question. Mengyang silently committed this matter to memory. At that moment within the chaotic star region, Seabass had just returned to the space station when he received a communication from Qinyao. The message from Qinyao was straightforward. Seabass connected to the star network and arrived at a picturesque high-altitude restaurant by the window. There were only 2 booths, and Qinyao occupied one. Upon seeing Seabass, Qinyao, with an impassive expression, spoke. Sit. No need. Speak directly if you have something to say, Seabass replied, lacking any desire for negotiation. Observing this, Qinyao abandoned any pretense. The pressure on him was immense. State your terms. I did not defeat him, and he preserved the chaotic star region. I lack the authority to negotiate on his behalf. What Seabass articulated was indeed his true sentiment, yet to Qinyao ears, it sounded like evasion, a delaying tactic. What do you truly want? The weight of a singularity-level pilot is not something you can bear. Release him now, and I assure you, I will hold no grudges. Qinyao rose, leaning slightly forward with his hands braced on the table, locking eyes with Seabass. Seabass suddenly smiled. If possible, I would desire your life. Qinyao expression darkened significantly. He should not assume that defeating Batul would allow him to claim supremacy. The matter of the chaotic star region was mentioned years ago at a council meeting. Its resolution had merely been stalled due to a lack of leadership. The next council meeting was in 5 months. When I raise this issue, do you believe you can withstand the entire Federation? Seabass's expression shifted slightly. This was precisely what he feared most. The chaotic star region was, after all, the stronghold of space pirates. If the Federation chose to dispatch troops to eradicate the pirates of the chaotic star region, even with Mo Li's capability to slay singularity-level pilots, resistance would be futile. For at that juncture, it would escalate into an interstellar war. No matter how powerful Mo Li was, he would only be able to execute decapitation tactics, inevitably incurring enmity with the Federation. However, Seabass quickly regained his composure, stating coldly, I believe that in 5 months, you may very well be crushed by those behind you. Qinyao expression shifted instantly. He had not anticipated that Seabass possessed such extensive information. It is not only you who covet the chaotic star region. If you truly instigate war here, your dealings will be exposed. At this moment, Qinyao felt as though his heart had plummeted to the depths of despair, for he realized he seemed incapable of grasping Seabass. Before him stood Seabass, an ostensibly ordinary individual, incapable of ascending to the ranks of fortress level, merely possessing a robust physique. Yet, what significance did that hold? A mere set of powered armor could easily match his prowess. Strangely, this person, whose status was worlds apart from his own, not only showed no fear, but even sought to trample upon him. An unnamed fury surged within him, but quickly subsided, for he had more pressing matters to address. Hand over Batul. You may propose any conditions you wish. Upon hearing this, Seabass felt a stir within, yet he maintained his composure. I have previously stated, I am not in a position to make decisions. With that, Seabass abruptly logged out of the Star Network. Taking a deep breath, he sought out M.O. Lee at the spaceport, where M.O. Lee was currently overseeing the storage of the 3 mechas. Mr. M.O. Seabass approached, recounting his recent communication with Chun Yao. Given the state of these mechas, it was likely that the 3 pilots had already met their demise. Batul? M.O. Lee scratched his head. Is that the one who favors mental attacks? Indeed, the one known as Mad Laughter Echo, Seabass replied. The others were left bewildered. Yet Seabass was able to follow M.O. Lee's train of thought. The origins of these 3 mechas were not difficult to deduce. They were once formidable figures who had faded from public view, easily traceable with a bit of research. Ahem, M.O. Lee exclaimed, realization dawning, cast into outer space. Engaging in combat, while laughing all the while, a lunatic. M.O. Lee expressed disdain for Batul, while the others remained in stunned silence. Batul, a singularity-level pilot, was simply discarded into outer space. As for the other 2, their lifeless bodies had already been discovered within the mechas. Lao Chung appeared somewhat anxious. They could accept the loss of a singularity-level mecha, but the loss of its pilot was intolerable. The combat suits could survive temporarily in space. Otherwise, we would not have discarded them after killing them. Observing the astonished expressions of the crowd, M.O. Lee innocently remarked, "You cannot possibly think I am capable of capturing a singularity-level pilot?" At this, the others twitched in disbelief, for they had clearly seen the Mad Laughter Echo mecha intact. Even if we were to return Batul, they would not let this matter rest. Seabass observed the expressions of those around him and shook his head. In fact, Batul's death may serve to deter them. For the time being, they will not dare to dispatch fleets or mechas. Seabass scanned the assembly, which included many who had steadfastly supported him over the years. Yet, he knew he was about to break his word. Ladies and gentlemen, Seabass inhaled deeply. The counselors will not spare us. As he uttered these words, the once straight posture of Seabass seemed to bend slightly. M.O. Lee, observing from the side, realized that in this moment, Seabass truly appeared aged. I have dealt with them for many years. The gathering fell silent, yet an invisible pressure was palpable among them. At this moment, they were reminded that Seabass was not a formidable pilot like M.O. Lee, nor did he possess the overwhelming power of a legislator. He was merely an ordinary individual, a common man struggling for survival in the cracks of society. Mr. M.O. could not protect them indefinitely. Seabass observed the silent crowd. The more he traversed the years and learned about the legislators, the deeper his despair grew. After M.O. Lee had slain the 3 pilots, he suddenly realized how absurd their aspirations to oppose the legislators were. Just these few pilots possessed the capacity to destabilize the entire chaotic star domain. Moreover, M.O. Lee could not remain in such a desolate place forever, lacking resources and needing to guard against the pilots sent by the legislators. Seabass understood that he could no longer be a burden to M.O. Lee. With this thought, a resolute expression dawned upon his face. The Crimson Star Scar should disband. While Mr. M.O. still instilled fear in them, they could safely depart from the chaotic star domain. Boss, why? We have just reformed, they exclaimed. Even if we leave, we will merely return to being hunted like rats in the star domain. The crowd voiced their objections, and Seabass felt a dull ache in his heart. They were all former captives of space pirates, and during his absence, they had been hiding among the pirates. Now, upon his return, they had finally begun to live normally, only to find themselves reverting to their former plight so soon. Their resistance was palpable. I do not wish to return to the past. If there truly are no choices left, I would rather die. I have endured enough of this life. A voice quivered with emotion. In the past, my will to live was sustained by the faint hope that Boss Victor would return one day, fulfilling our wishes for freedom. Tears welled in some eyes. Are you truly going to give up, Boss? Must we relinquish our vengeance for Boss Alier? I will never forget the kindness shown to me by Boss Alier. Most of those remaining in the Crimson Star Scar were those who had stayed behind to lie in wait all those years. Their bond to the Crimson Star Scar ran deep and strong. M.O. Lee, observing from the side, hesitated to speak. The atmosphere was so charged that he felt anything he said might dampen their spirits. Yet, seeing their despondent expressions, he could no longer hold back. Wait. The crowd turned to him. What you are saying is predicated on the assumption that the legislators will continue their reprisals. But look at the current situation. Batter has just died, and he was no insignificant figure, was he? Seabass pondered momentarily. Batter was indeed formidable, his reputation fearsome in the outside world. Exactly. If even he has perished here, surely others will think twice about coming. In the short term, Seabass saw the clarity in this. And what about my name? The one who has slain Batter and 2 super pilots of the Stellar Ring? That name should suffice, right? M.O. Lee remarked with a smile. Chapter 110, The Propaganda Plan. Seabass found himself at a loss for words. His heart felt heavy, burdened by the weight of too many debts. He could not even discern a direction to repay them. Even sacrificing his own frail body would not suffice. M.O. Lee spoke with a serious expression, stating that, surprisingly. His arrival in the chaotic star domain was primarily to defeat these pilots. Assisting them was merely a matter of convenience. There was no need to overthink it or place undue pressure upon themselves. Seabass felt a pang of sorrow deep within, yet, given the gravity of M.O. Lee's words, he refrained from being overly sentimental. Mr. M.O., I am aware of that. Taking a deep breath, Seabass's mind began to churn. If Mr. Mo's name were to spread, it would indeed instill considerable deterrence. When those council members contemplated acting here, they would have to consider the possibility of confronting a singularity-level pilot. Seabass's gaze flickered. And as far as I know, the value of a singularity-level pilot has already surpassed that of the chaotic star domain itself. Therefore, other council members might not even spare this place a glance, save for Meng Yang and Chun Yao. M.O. Lee's heart stirred. Revenge indeed? The sunk cost would make them hesitant to abandon their pursuit, yet they would also find it difficult to decide, for not giving up would mean investing even more resources. However, I believe they would most likely deliberate for the long term. Oh, Seabass looked at M.O. Lee. The reason is simple. They lack your information. Although I do not fully comprehend the battles between mechs, I understand the concept of killing at the same level. After speaking, he gazed towards the mech warehouse behind him. The intact, maniacal laughter of the mech left him more astounded than M.O. Lee's achievements. The emergence of such a mech indicated that Batter had likely been defeated in a crushing manner during battle. The implications of this were even more terrifying. If they were to promote M.O. Lee and spread his name, this mech would be pivotal. However, doing so might severely offend Chun Yao. With this thought, Seabass spoke earnestly. Mr. M.O., if your name were to be broadcasted, it would be at the expense of Chun Yao and Meng Yang, which would undoubtedly provoke their ire. M.O. Lee, upon hearing this, also wore a grave expression. If that is the case, would they send a mech fleet to kill me? To be frank, I am uncertain. Meng Yang is quite protective of her reputation. She presents herself in a positively radiant manner, thus she would strive to distance herself from any damaging associations. If one were to thoroughly investigate these two starring-level pilots, they could uncover their ties to Meng Yang. Therefore, at that juncture, I sense that Meng Yang would likely abandon these two individuals to safeguard her own reputation. As for Chun Yao, Seabass narrowed his eyes slightly. Chun Yao has someone backing him. I am unaware of the specifics regarding that individual. However, the loss of a singularity-level pilot is something the entire Federation cannot withstand, making them the most likely candidates for retribution. Upon hearing the word retribution, M.O. Lee's eyes brightened. Will singularity-level pilots come? Seabass, observing his eager demeanor, could not help but smile wryly. It is more probable that a fleet will come, leading to war. The number of return-to-emptiness-level pilots in the entire Federation is scant. The opposing side's energy may still be insufficient. As for singularity-level pilots, there is also the risk of casualties. Thus, their best course of action would be to find a suitable pretext to dispatch a fleet to annihilate this place. Understood, so you wish to dissolve the Crimson Star Scar. M.O. Lee pondered thoughtfully. Although I may lack understanding in other matters, it seems that instigating a war within the Federation requires a rather convoluted process, does it not? Indeed. It must be proposed in their Congressional Assembly, followed by a vote. However, our region holds little value. The majority of the representatives are unlikely to support such a motion, especially those from the North Falling Star domain. Seabass possesses profound insights into the Federation's representatives. Waging war would utilize their public funds, and it is improbable that they would consent to such expenditures in a desolate area. Improbable, you say? M.O. Lee inquired, intrigued. Precisely, Seabass affirmed with a solemn nod. Yet I fear the influence behind Chun Yao may possess capabilities beyond our imagination. Resources expended to pacify a chaotic star domain are relatively minimal, and those backing him might indeed manage to pass the proposal. M.O. Lee furrowed her brow. If war were to be initiated in such a manner, it would complicate matters significantly. War is not merely the petty skirmishes we see now, when fleets are deployed. The annihilation cannons and other super-heavy weaponry could easily devastate the entire chaotic star domain. At that point, M.O. Lee would be left to conduct a decapitation strike, while Seabass and others would not even qualify as cannon fodder. The most critical aspect is that these fleets belong to the Federation. Even if M.O. Lee were to gain control over them, engaging them would prove difficult. After all, her notoriety in the Empire is well known, and selling them to the insectoids is out of the question. Presently, the Federation stands as M.O. Lee's primary benefactor, and turning against them would be unwise. After a moment's contemplation, M.O. Lee ceased her musings. Ultimately, it boils down to a question of worth. If they were to realize that the chaotic star domain is not easily subdued, passing the proposal would be far from straightforward. Therefore, Seabass, you should indeed promote my name. Seabass stared at M.O. Lee in astonishment. He had articulated the situation clearly, yet she still supported him? One misstep could render him a public enemy of the Federation, and even the Galactic Academy would be powerless to protect him. At that moment, Seabass felt his thoughts swirling. After a long pause, he finally spoke in a hoarse voice. I understand, Mr. Mo. Once a decision is made, Seabass would not procrastinate. He had always been decisive in his actions. Since they intended to make a name for themselves, mere word of mouth would be insufficient. Something more explosive was required. For instance, those 2-star ring-class mechs. The chaotic star domain lies beyond the Federation's borders. Battles occurring here remain unknown to anyone aside from a few relevant representatives. Acquiring information about Batul's demise and the hasty retreat of Takal counts as one source. But he is aligned with Chun Yao and would naturally withhold such information. Thus, they must rely on themselves. The members of the Crimson Star Scar scattered throughout the Teklan hub to disseminate news from this region. The recent stirrings in the Rust Star domain could not be concealed from the local populace, making this the optimal starting point. As these tidings spread, Mo Lee and Seabass would also be accompanied by the 2-star ring-class mechs as they journeyed towards the Central Star domain. In the realm of rapid information dissemination, the Central Star region stands unparalleled. Currently, Seabass aims to ensure that the entire Federation is aware of a dread deity within the Chaotic Star region, capable of annihilating singularity-level pilots. The 4th update has arrived. I kindly urge everyone to support with positive feedback. It is no easy task for a new book to gain traction. If you find it lacking, please refrain from hasty negative reviews. Share your thoughts, and I shall improve. Chapter 111. Attendance only by spreading the reputation of the Chaotic Star region can the various council members comprehend the situation here. When Chun Yao and his companions propose their agenda, these representatives will weigh the pros and cons, rather than being half-deceived into instigating war. Moreover, aside from amplifying their reputation, Seabass must also impose restrictions on the Chaotic Star region. Such notoriety could attract a myriad of space pirates, and should they coalesce, even without Chun Yao's instigation, the Northern Star region would employ their jurisdiction to forcibly declare war. This requires a delicate balance, one that Seabass must assess. Yunming Star region recently. The atmosphere has become markedly lively. Numerous ships from various factions are steadily entering the Yunming Star region. Most of these vessels are occupied by students from various academies, some dispatched by the institutions themselves, while others belong to those of considerable influence who have come aboard privately. The annual Federal Academy League is a grand event within the Federation. The academies across the star regions gather their most talented individuals, selecting the creme de la creme to converge in the Yunming Star region. It is said that this cohort will become the backbone of the Federation decades hence. Among them, the graduating students garner the most attention. After graduation, they may choose to remain at their academies or join various factions. These elite students from the academies view the heavenly punishment level merely as a starting point. Their aspirations lie in ascending to the star ring level, and beyond that, the singularity level holds promise. Thus, in addition to the academies themselves, representatives from various factions are present, even from the most remote star regions, all eager to engage with these students post-competition. Qin Wanga, accompanied by Chun Xingxuang and Su Yanwan, arrived aboard the family vessel of Chun Xingxuang. The three share a harmonious bond, having developed an intimate friendship over the course of their time together. Chun Xingxuang is also a member of the new student delegation, with Su Yanwan accompanying her. Xingxuang, we have arrived at the Yunming Star region. Su Yanwan hurriedly dashed to Chun Xingxuang's quarters, waking her from her slumber. Upon seeing her drowsy state, she quickly sought out Qin Wanga. As Qin Wanga opened the door, she had just awakened and was adorning herself, modestly concealing her youthful allure. Wanga, we're here. I must go shopping. Will you join me? In the past, such indulgent shopping expeditions would have been utterly foreign to Qin Wanga. However, after several occasions of being drawn along by her friends, she found it hard to refuse. In their own words, their wealth was inexhaustible, and these expenditures were but trifles. Moreover, even if Qin Wanga were to refuse, they would directly purchase items for her, and over time, she simply acquiesced to their whims. The Chun family spacecraft boasts a dedicated private spaceport. Once the vessel docked, Su Wanwan grasped the hands of both Chun Xingxuang and Qin Wanga, exclaiming that the competition venue was located on the Yunming Twin Stars, and they had already secured accommodations, sparing them the wait for the Academy's arrangements. Onward they charged. Qin Wanga gazed through the space station's glass at the distant, dreamlike scene of the Yunming Twin Stars, momentarily lost in reverie. In her homeland, merely visiting the Yunming Star region once would suffice as a topic of conversation. Uncle Chun, who merely passed through the Yunming Star region, was renowned in the neighboring villages. Every time he indulged in drink, he would extol the beauty of Yunming Star. Now, was it finally her turn to tread this path? Meanwhile, the colossal spaceship of Xinghao Academy was also en route to the Yunming Star region. Within the ship, Yi Lingyi knocked on Jiang Yan's door. Professor, we are preparing to head to Yunming Star. Coming, came Jiang Yan's voice from within, and soon he opened the door. Upon witnessing the unique nebula of the Yunmeng star region outside, he stretched leisurely, exclaiming, "Ah, back here again. What do you think? Are you confident?" "I don't know," Yi Lingyin replied, her words significantly fewer than before. The Inja incident had profoundly impacted her. "It's fine, just give it your all. I wonder how many monsters the other academies will conjure up this year." Jiang Yin, largely indifferent to the academy rankings, was wholly absorbed in his research. In recent years, Xinghe Academy had maintained a mid to high ranking, yet they still lagged slightly behind the elite institutions, caught in a limbo of mediocrity. As they both gazed out the window, Jiang Yin suddenly remarked, "I wonder how that fellow Mo Li is faring over there." His commotion was quite substantial. Upon hearing Mo Li's name, Yi Lingyin's expression became complex. Had it not been for him, she might have perished in the Yin Songstar region. Speaking of which, he never disclosed his age. "But he doesn't seem much older than you," Jiang Yin suddenly mused. "I have no idea," Yi Lingyin admitted, having hardly communicated with Mo Li and thus remained in the dark. If that fellow were to compete in the Intercollegiate League, he would undoubtedly be a formidable shark in a pond of fish. Reflecting on Mo Li's prowess, even Jiang Yin felt a surge of astonishment. He was capable of wielding the Holy Radiance Judicator, while the other academy students could only manage, at best, the early stages of heavenly punishment. Against Mo Li, they stood no chance whatsoever. Yi Lingyin remained silent, as Mo Li had the most profound influence on her. Even in Zhe, at the pinnacle of heavenly punishment, could utilize the blood debt, a fortress-level pinnacle mech, to achieve victories against opponents, while perfectly mastering the Holy Radiance Judicator. His power was conservatively estimated to be at the star ring level. The thought of a star ring level pilot in his 20s left Yi Lingyin in a state of shock. "By the way, he promised to come. I just wonder where he is. The league starts in a few days, and I hope he can make it in time." Jiang Yin uttered a remark, hands clasped behind his back as he made his way to the hall, with Yi Lingyin promptly following suit. Was he also attending? Indeed. Among the new student representatives, there was a girl named Qin Wang whom he was mentoring. A mentor ought to be present, after all. At this moment, Mo Li was also en route to the Yunmeng star domain. "Seabass, are you certain that our vessel will not be mistaken for space pirates and shot down?" On board a medium-sized transport ship, Mo Li occupied the pilot's seat, while Seabass took the co-pilot's position. "Not at all. While this ship may be somewhat antiquated, it is duly registered." "Is that so?" Mo Li remained skeptical. They had resolved to bring the mechas to the Yunmeng star domain for auction before immediately seeking a vessel capable of interstellar travel. However, after a lengthy search within the Rusty Star's lair, they had only managed to procure this rather decrepit ship. The ship's paint had begun to fade, and its armor bore numerous battle scars, a testament to its origins with space pirates. Furthermore, the maintenance was rather haphazard, with many areas not pertaining to the living quarters merely patched with armor plates. Yet, given its pirate heritage, one could hardly expect a complete maintenance facility. As for the engines, the thrusters emitted not only the expected exhaust flames, but also a hint of black smoke. However, Mo Li scoffed at the notion of this being acceptable. He felt a twinge of anxiety, even questioning whether the ship might disintegrate during the next warp. Nevertheless, upon observing Seabass's calm demeanor in the pilot's seat, Mo Li felt a modicum of reassurance. Seabass was indeed reliable, and Mo Li was willing to place his trust in him. Moreover, Xuanji had affirmed that the ship was operational, albeit only just. As they departed the Stargate's vicinity, Mo Li's expression remained impassive as he gripped the chair tightly, the veins on his arms prominently visible. In the next moment, the ship jolted violently as it accelerated, entering a state of warp. "Once we pass through the next Stargate, we will arrive at the Yunmeng star domain. We lack the authorization to enter the Twin Stars and must conduct our transactions in the Space City," Seabass explained while setting the autopilot. "Are we not permitted to enter the Yunmeng Twin Stars? Ordinary people are not allowed access. Only those of considerable standing receive such privileges." Mo Li, perplexed, summoned a holographic display. "Is this what you mean?" Seabass gazed at the pass for the Yunmeng Twin Stars displayed before him, momentarily silent. However, upon reflection, he realized that Mo Li's status made such a document entirely reasonable. He had not anticipated that old Jiang would provide something so useful. A thought crossed Seabass's mind. In a few days, the Federal Academy League would commence, and this was a pass arranged by the Academy for you, wasn't it? "That seems likely," Mo Li replied as he stowed away the holographic display. "He summoned me here." Seabass recalled Mo Li's esteemed identity. "You are an honorary pilot. Only those accompanied by students can participate in the league. Indeed, one of my students has been selected." Seabass caught his breath. While Mo Li was undoubtedly skilled, it did not necessarily imply he possessed the ability to teach. Yet, it now appeared that an honorary pilot mentoring a student competing in the Federal Academy League could very well mark the first occurrence from the Galaxy Academy. The intrinsic value of this situation struck Seabass as he contemplated it, leaving him in awe. Indeed, Mr. Mo Li is exceptional. I was previously unaware, but my understanding suggests that the Academy's mentors have always been required to pilot mechas. Is my Saint Radiant Arbiter not in the rear? Seabass's expression grew peculiar. Typically, mechas must be registered on-site upon entering the Cloud Dream Twin Stars, and the Academy usually travels there collectively. The dilemma lies in our potential inability to arrive on time. Seabass was acutely aware of the vessel's speed, and by the time they reached their destination, the League might have already commenced. If they miss it, so be it. What significance does a child's brawl hold? Observing Mo Lee's youthful visage, Seabass recalled Batul, and from his perspective, it seemed valid. Even the most prodigious students at the Academy could not rival him. These students, at their peak, might reach the celestial punishment level, and in a couple of years, Mo Lee would likely attain the pinnacle of that level, which is considered extraordinary. Yet, the current Mo Lee had already surpassed the singularity level effortlessly, and with Seabass's imagination, he struggled to conceive of anyone who could stand alongside him. However, one issue lingered. As Seabass reflected on the League proceedings, he recalled that there was indeed a mentor's address. The thought caused a subtle change in his expression. Should they fail to attend, the mentors of the Star River Academy might perceive it as arrogance, affecting his standing among the students. Glancing at Mo Lee, Seabass instinctively pushed the thrusters forward. Yet the vessel had already reached its limits, unable to increase its speed. Mr. Mo, we may not arrive in time, and thus the mentor's address might be missed. What address? Mo Lee exclaimed, startled out of his lethargy. I wasn't informed of this. In haste, he connected with Jiang Yin through the StarNet. Hello, old Jiang. What is going on? I had no idea there was a mentor's address. Meanwhile, Jiang Yin, who was aboard the shuttle with Yi Lingyin, was momentarily taken aback upon receiving the call. Haven't you finished with the Chaotic Star region? You could have taken a clandestine ship within these few days. Mo Lee's forehead gradually displayed 2 question marks as he turned to Seabass. Seabass remained composed. Typically, smuggler ships are large vessels. Their travel speed slower than that of regular tourist ships. What about our ship? This vessel is a model produced over a century ago and has since been discontinued. Strictly speaking, it is a limited edition. Mo Lee's expression remained impassive. I meant the speed. It is somewhat inferior to the smuggler's ship, Seabass admitted. Jiang Yin and Yi Lingyin couldn't help but interject. Such ships are practically extinct now. Most registrations must have expired. How did you manage to find one? The oilhead girl is also aboard? Mo Lee felt he had heard a familiar voice. Yi Lingyin's expression darkened. Heaven knows how long she had spent washing after boarding the ship. It's not me. Pa, I can still smell that odor just thinking about it. Yi Lingyin felt her fists clench. Only in the presence of Mo Lee did she feel all her rationality evaporate in an instant. Jiang Yin chuckled as he patted Yi Lingyin on the shoulder, then remarked, surely there must be tourist spaceships heading to the Central Star Domain from the Chaotic Star Domain? Upon hearing this, Mo Lee and Seabass exchanged glances, both letting out a resigned sigh. Mo Lee ran his fingers through his hair, stating, this time, we are carrying contraband to the Yunmeng Star Domain. The 2 mechas? Jiang Yin inquired with curiosity. Yes, Jiang Yin, I was merely joking. Did you actually acquire them? Wait, if those mechas are still sellable, does that mean they haven't sustained too much damage? The Chaotic Star Domain lacks the conditions for Star Ring class mechas. Star Ring class? Yi Lingyin exclaimed, her eyes widening in shock. Last time it was a fortress, how has it escalated to Star Ring now? As her thoughts began to spiral into confusion, Mo Lee continued, both mechas belong to the Dream River Council. They cannot be transported via regular spacecraft, and those black ships dare not take them. Dream River Council? Why would they intervene in the Chaotic Star Domain? Yi Lingyin felt as though her mind was overwhelmed. What do you know, you messy girl? The Dream River Council is notoriously duplicitous. This statement quickly submerged her chaotic thoughts in anger. After a brief silence, Jiang Yin remarked, indeed. The black ships are too fearful to accept them. They dread being double-crossed. Mo Lee, incensed, retorted, am I that kind of person? Seabass cast a silent glance at him before quickly averting his gaze. Currently, you won't make it in time. Let me consult with the Academy. They are quite eager for your participation. There's no other option. This spaceship is deplorable. The Star Pirates vessels operate within the Star Domain, and very few can traverse interstellar distances. Mo Lee lamented. I cannot risk taking these 2 mechas on a standard passenger ship. Who knows if Dream River will launch a Star Destroyer upon receiving information. I can defend myself with the 10 Directions of Tranquility, but these 2 mechas and Seabass would be doomed. Thus, they were left with no choice but to embark on this antiquated spaceship to the Yunmeng Star Domain. I appreciate your assistance, Professor Jiang, Mo Lee said earnestly. Jiang Yan's expression darkened considerably, realizing that when there were matters at hand, he was addressed as Professor Jiang. But otherwise, he was simply old Jiang, wasn't he? Fine, I will speak with them. After terminating the communication, Yi Lingyin couldn't help but ask, what was he doing in the Chaotic Star Domain? How did he get entangled with the Council? This situation is exceedingly complicated, Jiang Yin sighed. You've picked up quite the anomaly. Yi Lingyin felt her head buzzing, realizing that she was struggling to comprehend the world around her. Emoli was supposed to be my companion in the dire situation in the Yin Songstar domain. Yet now he has transformed entirely, switching identities. Recalling the opponents in the upcoming league, Yi Lingyin suddenly felt an overwhelming sense of unreality. Jiang Yin too was lost in contemplation, reasoning that someone of Mo Li's caliber could not possibly remain obscure within the Empire. With his singularity-level strength, he should be stirring the winds of change. Had the Empire truly enhanced their capacity to suppress information? Jiang Yin found himself at a loss for answers. Nonetheless, at present, Mo Li had not exhibited any particularly nefarious or anti-human tendencies. He had even been a source of assistance, prompting Jiang Yin to let go of any grievances. As the shuttle made its way directly to the Cloud Dream Twin Stars, Jiang Yin returned to his dwelling first. Having aged, he lacked the exuberance of youth and did not indulge in frivolities upon arrival at Cloud Dream Star. Instead, he opted for repose, a choice shared by Yi Lingyin, who declined invitations from her peers and immersed herself in the star network. Days swiftly passed, and the influx of visitors to the Cloud Dream Star region increased, leading to queues at the spaceport. Consequently, the region was compelled to open nearby space cities, permitting authorized spacecraft to land. As time flowed onward, the League's commencement approached swiftly. On the eve of the League, Qin Wanga pursed her lips, gazing at the luminous screen before her. Wanga, the mentor has encountered a slight delay and may arrive slowly. It's fine. I'm uncertain if I will even take the stage, she replied. Seabass, how much longer until we arrive? Qin Wanga observed Mo Li peering outside to inquire. Mr. Mo, approximately 2 days, came the response. All right, Wanga, I shall reach you in 2 days. We will meet then. Regarding tomorrow's mentor's address, Professor Jiang will assist me, so you need only be present with him. Understood. Professor Jiang contacted me today. Indeed, old Jiang is quite reliable. I trust him. Have you been diligent in your training? If you have the chance to compete, ensure you leave them utterly defeated. Qin Wanga nodded earnestly. Mentor, I have not neglected my training. If I truly have the opportunity to perform, I will not bring shame upon you, even at the cost of my life. It's not a significant issue. If you cannot prevail, I shall challenge their mentor myself, Mo Li remarked with a slight shake of his head. Seeing Mo Li's demeanor, Qin Wanga could not help but smile, whispering, Mentor, I will ensure you are not embarrassed. What did you say? Nothing. All right. I am preparing to traverse the star domain gate. I shall call you once I have crossed. Okay. The following day, Qin Wanga gathered with Chun Xingxuang and Su Wanwan at the designated time and place provided by the Academy. For an event of this magnitude, tardiness was unthinkable, as it could result in expulsion from the Academy. Thus, many arrived early at the Star River Academy's hotel. The delegation was led by a branch dean named Li Sheng. With half an hour remaining before assembly, all attendees had gathered, and Li Sheng began outlining some important points. Qin Wanga approached Jiang Yan's side. Apart from Jiang Yan, other mentors had several individuals behind them, while only Yi Lingyin stood behind him. Qin Wanga approached them and whispered, Hello, Professor Jiang. Greetings, Senior Sister Yi. Yes. Please come to the back, Jiang Yan responded. All right, she replied. They exchanged pleasantries, and Yi Lingyin discreetly observed Qin Wanga from the corner of her eye. As Li Sheng continued speaking, Yi Lingyin did not pay much attention but turned her head slightly and asked, Are you a student of Mo Li? Yes, indeed. Qin Wanga replied, feeling somewhat reserved in the presence of the renowned Ice Mountain senior sister. Although she had heard that previous seniors were not like this, the current demeanor of Yi Lingyin certainly exuded an air of aloofness. Do not bring him disgrace. Upon hearing this, Qin Wanga became unusually earnest. I will not. In this competition, I estimate that you are the only one at the assault level, while the others have likely ascended to the fortress level. During the time leading up to the competition, feel free to seek my assistance. I shall help you practice. Huh. Qin Wanga was momentarily taken aback. Although this senior appeared to be cold as per the rumors, her words hinted at a semblance of concern for her. I am merely a substitute, ordinarily. I would have little chance of taking the stage. Prepare yourself. Oh, Li Sheng did not elaborate for long. The Star River Academy had always looked down upon such formalities, and shortly thereafter, the group boarded the hover vehicle bound for the competition venue. This time, the venue was situated atop the largest desert expanse on Yunmeng Star, which had remained untouched, preserving its pristine ecosystem. Upon their arrival, they could already observe numerous small floating cities dotting the desert, each representing the encampment of a different academy. In the subsequent league, they would reside within these encampments. The hover vehicle came to a halt at the Star River Academy's encampment, and the group disembarked in succession. Leading the way, Yi Lingyin spoke to Qin Wanga without looking back, stating that the Academy League featured real competitions, unlike the virtual battles within the Academy. You must mentally prepare for this. Qin Wanga took a deep breath, acknowledging, "I am aware. I was informed of this prior to our arrival." The reason the Federation employed such a competition format was to ascertain the limits of the students in the throes of genuine life-and-death combat. Some individuals would invariably unleash a strength surpassing that of virtual confrontations, while others would reveal their true selves when faced with such dire circumstances. In terms of protection, the Federation only activated a shield when a vital sign was detected as fading. Even so, there had been many talented individuals who had perished in previous leagues. Nevertheless, the league continued to unfold year after year. The 114th League commenced, broadcast live across the Star Network, marking a grand event for the entire Federation. With viewership and excitement reaching unprecedented heights, the competition began with first-year contestants, many of whom were new faces stepping onto the league stage for the first time, garnering significant attention. Similar to the internal academy competitions, this battle would likely reveal who might emerge as a frontrunner in the coming days. In the Yunming Star Domain, the Mingqin Star Domain once again dominated, retaining its position in the first tier. Following closely were the Yinyao Star Domain, the Luiying Star Domain, and the Dongli Star Domain, which comprised the second tier. The remaining domains, Nanming, Beiluo, Xiling, and Yinyao, trailed closely behind. The focus of society primarily rested on the academies of the first and second tiers, while those with slightly lesser prowess were directed towards the 4 academies in the third tier. As the first day of battles commenced, numerous talents emerged into the public eye, and the performances of various academies were consistent with previous years. However, on the second day, the Xiling and Nanming Star Domains made a stunning revelation. Each of these 2 domains unveiled a super newcomer. Coincidentally, the opponents of these 2 domains that day were Yunming and Mingqin, and both matches, initially deemed unlikely to succeed, were decisively claimed by the newcomers. The 2 individuals instantly captured the majority of attention during the competition. During the commencement of the Academy League, nearly everyone who could reach the Yunming Star Domain flocked to witness the event live at the Yunming Twin Stars. However, when Mo Li and Seabass arrived at the space city outside that rocky planet, the atmosphere was surprisingly subdued. Stepping down from the spacecraft, Mo Li gazed impassively at the thrusters emitting black smoke. Seabass, following his gaze, remarked gravely, "Mr. Mo, trust me, it merely appears to be malfunctioning. In reality, there is no issue." Mo Li remained silent, mentally reaching out to Xuanji. "Xuanji, please enlighten me. The inspection of the spacecraft systems has been completed. The black smoke from the thrusters is due to an energy conversion efficiency of merely 76. The hull itself is unharmed. However, it has reached the standard for decommissioning and should be scrapped promptly." "Damn it, Xuanji." Mo Li seethed, having grown frustrated with Xuanji's sporadic disconnections lately. Observing the changing expressions on Mo Li's face, Seabass had grown accustomed to it. "Mr. Mo, the competition is already on the second day. We are at a crucial juncture for the newcomers." "Understood. I will take a look first. You manage the mecha." Mo Li patted his cheeks and proceeded to the belly of the spacecraft. Upon opening the hatch, the Holy Light Arbiter stood silently, accompanied by the echo of madness. Mo Li approached the Holy Light Arbiter, and its electronic eye flickered to life. The Holy Light Arbiter knelt on one knee, guiding Mo Li into the cockpit, initiating the empathic connection and activating all systems. At the instant the connection was established, the information was transmitted to the realm network within the space city, swiftly relaying to the center. Once the information reached the center, the red warning transformed into a green notification. A guiding message from the space city rapidly appeared before Mo Li, prompting a sigh of relief. Jiang Yin had arranged for him to obtain the mecha entry permit to Yunming Star, significantly reducing potential complications. Departing the space city in the mecha, Mo Li initiated a communication with Jiang Yin. "Old Jiang, what is the situation now?" The visage of Jiang Yin appeared on the screen, though he remained silent, staring ahead. "Hello? Old Jiang." Jiang Yin turned back. "I can hear you. What's wrong? You look a bit off." Seeing Mo Li, Jiang Yin sighed in resignation. "Sigh. Can you at least speak?" Mo Li urged. "Sighing doesn't help. I detest 2 types of people." "What types?" Jiang Yin inquired instinctively. "One type is those who speak only halfway. And the other?" Jiang Yin awaited an answer, but Mo Li remained silent for a considerable time. Realizing this, he quickly responded. "Oh, forget it. It's not a major issue. It's just about the competition. This year, the Yinyao Star Domain is indeed superior. You lost the competition? I don't see you performing any better." Mo Li bluntly stated, lacking any sense of belonging to the academy. Jiang Yin could only offer a wry smile. The Star River Academy and the Onyx Mecha Academy of the Yinyao Star Domain had been in contention, both viewing each other with disdain. The disparity in strength was negligible, and every year, such inter-academy competitions provided an opportunity for one to triumph over the other. In the preceding years, Star River Academy had been consistently overshadowed by their opponents. However, The emergence of Yi Lingyin and Yi Lingyun over the past 2 years saw a remarkable reversal, as they triumphed over their rivals. Yet, this year, a new prodigy from Hidden Dawn Academy has made an appearance. Jiang Yan, observing the ongoing match, witnessed the freshmen from Star River Academy being defeated by their adversaries. While a defeat might typically hold no significant weight, the opposing team was clearly toying with them, methodically dismantling the newcomer's mech components piece by piece. This blatant humiliation was apparent to all, yet the freshmen, resolute and defiant, refused to surrender, leaving onlookers powerless to intervene. Among the freshman cohort, Chun Xingxuang and Nan Xingchen clenched their fists in frustration, wishing fervently to confront the tormentor. Dean, this Bontel is far too oppressive. Let me take my turn, Nan Xingchen exclaimed, his fiery gaze betraying his agitation. Not yet. Your turn has not arrived, Li Sheng replied, shaking his head slightly, while the second and third year students looked on with furrowed brows. Li Sheng felt a sense of helplessness, with Bontel, a 6-star stronghold-level psychic, on the opposing side, and several formidable second-year students. The odds were decidedly against them. Casting a discreet glance at Yi Lingyin, he sighed silently. The twin stars of Aurora, whose names had once shone brightly across the Federation, now seemed diminished with one of them absent. Could Yi Lingyin truly uphold the banner alone? At that moment, the mech of the Star River Academy freshman finally lost its power, triggering the shield mechanism and conceding defeat. On the battlefield, Bontel's mech turned to face the floating city of Star River Academy, its electronic eyes flashing with intensity. All present turned pale. This was an unabashed provocation. However, Bontel's psychic energy had reached the 6th star of the stronghold level. Though newly ascended, he was more than capable of overpowering those at the 1st and 2nd stars. The disparity in psychic energy directly impacted the control over the mech and the capacity to accommodate more advanced energy weapon systems. A 6-star stronghold could command a mech far superior to those of the 1st and 2nd stars. Typically, mechs adhered to strict hierarchies. Extreme mechs, like combat types that sacrificed additional functionalities for a singular advantage, were a rarity. Currently, the strongest freshman leading the cohort was merely at the 4th star of the stronghold level. The atmosphere in Star River Academy grew somber as they acknowledged their inferiority. The freshman was swiftly escorted off for urgent medical attention, while Bontel returned to Black Obsidian Academy to rest and prepare for the next match. At this stage of the tournament, with Bontel having already secured 2 victories, another loss for Star River Academy would render further competition unnecessary. Nan Xingchen yearned to charge into battle immediately, exclaiming, "Let me take my turn. I am more than a match for him in close combat." Beside him, Chun Xingxuang tightened her lips, asserting, "I can also compete. My speed will outpace him." Li Sheng gently shook his head. The mech armor of Bontel employed a specialized coating technology from their academy, allowing it to absorb a portion of energy attacks, rendering him increasingly formidable in the face of ranged assaults. After a couple of encounters, they had begun to grasp the unique characteristics of Bontel's mech. If one were to describe it, it would be akin to a quintessential berserker. The special coating on the armor rendered him impervious to energy attacks of the same tier, while kinetic weapons, such as electromagnetic cannons, struggled to lock onto his speed. Bontel's mech was a melee specialized assault type, with all attributes heavily invested in close combat. Coupled with its resistance to ranged attacks and an overwhelming level advantage, Li Sheng found himself at a considerable disadvantage at this stage. "Mentor, you must believe in me." Li Sheng glanced at Nan Xingchen. To confront a competitor like Bontel, one would either need a significant level advantage or engage him directly in a hard-hitting encounter. However, Nan Xingchen's level was insufficient. Any attempt on his part would likely end in defeat. You couldn't even defeat one go. What use would you be in this situation? Someone nearby could no longer tolerate the incessant shouting and interjected impatiently. Nan Xingchen shot him a fierce glare. "What of it if I can't defeat my older brother? Can you match his close combat prowess?" At this juncture, Nan Xingchen suddenly paused. "Mentor, let my brother take the field. His melee skills are unmatched, even against those of a higher tier." "Absolutely not." Li Sheng immediately dismissed the idea. Qin Wanga was currently the only breakthrough-level fighter in their team, and the odds of victory against a fortress-level opponent were already slim, especially given that the adversary hailed from the prestigious Black Obsidian Academy. This was no ordinary fortress-level mech. If it were a Star Network battle, Li Sheng might consider it, but this was a real combat scenario where a single misstep could lead to mortal peril. Qin Wanga's level was far too low. This was not merely a game on the Star Network. Hearing this, Qin Wanga lowered her head, her expression downcast. Chun Xingxuang patted her shoulder, reassuringly saying, "It's all right, Wanga." As the group found themselves in a state of despair, a radiant beam suddenly approached from afar. As the saintly judgment descended upon the floating city of Xinghao Academy, the students, upon witnessing a mech entering their domain, were hardly surprised. For many mentors had been piloting mechs for exchanges in recent days. Conflicts in the Academy League were inevitable. Initially, there were instances of mentors rushing into the fray. Subsequently, the Federation established a separate venue for these mentors to spar and exchange insights, albeit limited to the Star Network. The decision to bring mechs was made to record Star Network data, thereby facilitating a fair competition. With only half an hour of intermission, the group had yet to propose any viable resolutions, and it was undeniable that Bontel's current prowess was overwhelming. In the third-year section, Jiang Yin observed the situation with a slight shake of his head. "What troubles you, old Jiang?" Mo Li suddenly appeared, giving Jiang Yan's shoulder a friendly pat. "You're here? Don't startle me like that. My old heart can't handle it." Jiang Yin shrugged off the pat, feeling quite helpless. "Come on now. Why does your face look so wrinkled?" The students nearby initially felt a twinge of discontent regarding the sudden arrival of an individual who displayed no respect towards Professor Jiang. However, upon catching sight of Mo Li's countenance, their eyes widened in astonishment. They recognized him as the legendary pilot of the Academy. The first-year arena competition was notoriously challenging, and currently, none dared to partake. Following the sound, Mo Li's gaze brightened, and he was about to speak. Yet, Yi Lingyin, perceiving his intent without the need for thought, hurriedly stepped forward, urging him not to say a word. At present, someone from the Obsidian Academy is quite arrogant, relying on their superior rank and formidable close combat skills, rendering our long-range efforts futile, and trampling our dignity into the ground. Yi Lingyin spoke rapidly, fearful of Mo Li's response. Formidable in close combat? Mo Li indeed became distracted, and Yi Lingyin sighed in relief. Exactly. Where's my disciple? Isn't my disciple proficient in close combat? Jiang Yin pointed towards the rear of the first-year team. Following his gesture, Mo Li's gaze fell upon Qin Wanga at the back of the crowd. Coincidentally, Qin Wanga glanced over and, upon spotting Mo Li, her eyes sparkled with recognition. Mo Li signaled her to approach, and she quickly departed from her group, jogging towards him. "Mentor, it's been a while. How have you been?" Reporting to my mentor. "I have already broken through to the 9 stars. Ah, splendid. You seem quite spirited." Mo Li expressed his satisfaction. While her rate of advancement may not rival that of the Academy's true prodigies, it was remarkable given her empathetic abilities. Her consistent efforts were undoubtedly commendable. "I've heard you've encountered difficulties?" Mo Li inquired, glancing at Li Sheng, who still wore a frown from afar. "Yes, mentor. The opposing team possesses a powerful mecha that we cannot overcome." The mention of its prowess piqued Mo Li's interest. "Does old Jiang have any data on this mecha? I would like to see it." Jiang Yin cast him a puzzled look. "Do you have a plan? Or do you wish for this young lady to engage? This is a real competition arena. I would not advise her entering. Just show me the data. Do you think I've merely been idling in the chaotic star domain during this time?" Yi Lingyin, intrigued, chimed in as well. It was evident that the combat suit system used by Qin Wanga was imparted by Mo Li, and she was eager to discover what else Mo Li had taught her. Observing their curiosity, Jiang Yin revealed the essential parameters and data of the Bontel mecha, compiled from analyses of the previous 2 rounds of combat, intended solely for reference. After reviewing the information, Mo Li fell into contemplation. Moments later, he turned to Qin Wanga and asked, "Wanga, how are you faring with the star-crushing 7 forms that I taught you?" "Mentor, I can only utilize the 3rd form." "The 3rd form, you say?" Mo Li mused, stroking his chin. "You may employ it, but if you find yourself unable to prevail, then surrender." Without a moment's hesitation, Qin Wanga replied, "Understood." Chapter 116. Qin Wanga takes the stage. Yi Lingyin and Jiang Yin gazed at the pair in a state of bewilderment. Jiang Yin could not restrain himself any longer, exclaiming, "You intend to fight without my consent? Did you not agree?" I believe your words are trustworthy." Jiang Yin pondered for a moment before responding. Although Mo Li has always appeared somewhat unreliable, he has proven to be quite dependable in matters of combat, perhaps even to an excessive degree. Jiang Yin swiftly approached Li Sheng, sharing insights about Qin Wangu's situation. Upon hearing this, Li Sheng furrowed his brow. He was eager to win, yet felt a profound responsibility for the children involved. This year, they had fallen short, but there remained opportunities to reclaim victory in the years to come. Li Sheng did not dwell on the animosities between the 2 academies. He understood that since the opposing side had targeted them, they would not offer any advantage in a moment of weakness. Rest assured, if his long-range capabilities are slightly better, Wang Gu may struggle, but in close combat, surpassing 1 level is quite manageable, Li Sheng remarked. Hearing Mo Li's words, he instinctively wanted to retort, yet fell silent upon recalling Mo Li's formidable battle record. Is there truly a chance? Mo Li grinned. As soon as he lands a hit, he will be nothing more than a corpse. Beside them, Qin Wanggu remained silent. If Mo Li believed in her abilities, then she surely could succeed. Li Sheng refrained from hastily agreeing. Despite the extensive discussions between Mo Li and Jiang Yan, it ultimately depended on them, and he wished to gauge Qin Wanggu's reaction. Thus, he locked eyes with her, and in that fleeting moment, he found his answer. Very well, I understand. However, the name had already been submitted, and Wang Gu was still a substitute, necessitating a slight adjustment. Li Sheng called out, Wang Qingyi. Mentor, is it my turn? The student named Wang Qingyi, a tall girl, approached upon hearing Li Sheng's voice. Do you feel confident against Bontel? Wang Qingyi's expression grew serious. I am uncertain, but I will not bring shame to the academy. Li Sheng sighed in resignation. Wang Qingyi was at the level of a 2-star fortress, and merely managing to hold her ground would be commendable. In the next match, we will field Qin Wang Gu. Wang Qingyi looked incredulously at Qin Wang Gu beside Mo Li Mentor. Qin Wang Gu has only recently broken through to the 9th star. She is a significant tier below. My brother is invincible in close combat. Nan Xingchen interjected, dissatisfied. If it's close quarters, with my brother's unique combat armor, they could truly prevail. Recalling Qin Wang Gu's battle record, Wang Qingyi fell silent for a moment. They had no vested interests in conflict, and their relationship was generally amicable. At present, she had already imagined a scenario where the academy, for the sake of reputation, allowed Qin Wang Gu to enter merely to take a few hits. No, this match was originally meant for me. Even if I cannot win, I should be the one to compete. The very thought of Bontel's smug expression after a victory made her uncomfortable. How could they allow a young girl like Qin Wang Gu to bear that burden? Wang Qingyi took a deep breath, constantly encouraging herself. I will go. I can do this. My skin is thick, and no matter how much he mocks me, it will not matter. However, her mental fortitude proved ineffective as Li Sheng stated earnestly. Classmate Qin Wang Gu's mech is rather unique. Have you forgotten that she was chosen as a substitute precisely for scenarios like this? The opponent may possess superior strength, but can we trust in classmate Qin Wang Gu? Upon hearing this, Wang Qingyi gazed into Qin Wang Gu's resolute eyes. She then cast her gaze towards others, though she remained silent. Her thoughts likely mirrored her own. However, to her surprise, Professor Zhang Yan, standing behind Qin Wang Gu, appeared to share her sentiments. Witnessing this scene, Wang Qingyi inhaled deeply, understanding the implications. Yet, her name had presumably already been submitted. If Wang Gu were to participate, then... Oh dear, my head aches. Wang Qingyi's complexion turned ashen, and she collapsed to the ground, her sudden change of expression leaving Mo Li in a state of astonishment. A faint smile graced Li Sheng's lips as he remarked, Wang Qingyi seems unwell. Her mental energy is overwhelming. She must step back for a substitute. Qin Wang Gu, prepare yourself. Meanwhile, within the floating city of the Obsidian Academy, Bontel opened his eyes from a meditative state. Haven't they yet begun? Beside him were mentors and fellow students, who chuckled in response. They must be deliberating strategies, perhaps intimidated. Ha ha ha. The past 2 years, they were suffocated under the pressure of the Aurora twins. This year, we shall finally take control. Let us ensure we humiliate those upperclassmen. Indeed. Bontel, this year you can certainly overpower the Star River Academy, and even contend with the monsters of the Yunming and Mingqin star domains. Has it not started yet? I can hardly wait to witness their grim expressions. I heard one of the Aurora twins has perished. They are unlikely to fare well this year. Good riddance. As their conversation grew more animated, the mentors interjected with laughter. All right, we should mourn the fall of the Aurora twins. After all, they are geniuses of the Federation. Just as the mentor finished speaking, a notification arrived. They have changed participants? Let me see, peak assault level. Are you serious? Mech model, Sacred White Knight? I haven't heard of this model. Is it a new release from the Star River Academy? The mentor was slightly bewildered, as this mech model had not been recorded by the Academy, possibly indicating a special variant. After briefly alerting Bontel to remain vigilant, the time arrived, and he piloted his mech onto the field. In the desert below, as Bontel descended, a white mech awaited him. Qin Wang Gu, Sacred White Knight. Clad in pure white armor with a black visor, its posture exuded a sense of lightness, suggesting it was a lightweight, speed-oriented mech. The competition was broadcasted on a public channel, and Bontel, upon entering, laughed. Do you intend to rely on speed to outmaneuver me? You might have a chance. But as an assault level, what gives you the right? The mention of assault level immediately drew the attention of many, as such mechs were rarely seen in this caliber of competition, where the baseline was typically fortress level. Moreover, to challenge the first-year ace of the Obsidian Academy with an assault level mech? Many spectators shook their heads in disbelief, suspecting that Star River Academy was merely preserving their dignity in the face of impending defeat. Those who had initially focused on this arena instinctively turned their attention elsewhere, sensing that there was little left to witness here. At that moment, Qin Wang Gu appeared to be in a world of her own, consciously slowing her breath to calm her mind. The scenes of the battle with Mo Li flickered rapidly in the Star Network. Drones positioned at various angles were ready for the broadcast. As the countdown commenced, Qin Wang Gu opened her eyes and activated the engine for preheating. The countdown swiftly concluded. The engine, now fully warmed, surged to its peak performance. Yet, it was not over. The safety mechanisms of the engine silently disengaged, allowing its output efficiency to continue rising. Overload. TSK. Diving in recklessly right from the start, though such determination might lead to a more spectacular defeat. You're certainly digging your own grave. Bontel scoffed, rushing forward, intending to bury her here properly. Boom. The sand beneath was swept away by the thrust of the exhaust flames. Bontel leaned slightly forward, his speed surpassing that of the overloaded Qinhuanga. He struck first, drawing his particle blade and delivering a clean cut through the air. This strike, though unadorned, was imbued with the might of a superior mech. Its speed and power were far beyond what Qinhuanga could withstand. On the floating city of the Star River Academy, the details were obscured, but drones provided close-up broadcasts. Could Wanga truly withstand this? Overloading right from the start made victory seem improbable. Nan Xingchen listened to the murmurs of the upperclassmen, his brow furrowing. If my brother lands even a single hit, the battle will conclude. Not necessarily. Chen Xingxuang gently shook her head. Wanga's combat mech is indeed formidable, but Bontel's mech is equipped with a positional shield. Nan Xingchen's expression shifted. Why hadn't anyone mentioned this earlier? That is the nemesis of combat mechs. A mere positional shield? Emoli interjected confidently. I am certain of what I have seen. Just as Nan Xingchen was about to erupt in anger, seeing Emoli quelled his indignation. Mentor, are you still taking disciples? It's past 11, and I haven't had dinner yet. This isn't writer's block. I'll post another chapter after my meal tomorrow to complete the plot, alright? By the way, this chapter is a special length of 2,500 words, just to avoid your complaints of stagnation. Lastly, I humbly request a few motivating reviews. The humble author presents Chapter 117, The Collapse of Heaven. Others were equally curious about the legendary mentor Qinhuanga, casting inquisitive glances. It was rumored that her peculiar technique, which could end a battle with a single strike, was taught by him. Additionally, Mo Li boasted a glorious record with the Fortress-class mech, the pinnacle of the punishment of heaven, and Zhe. The presence of such a legendary pilot nearby was impossible to ignore. Why are you looking at me? Watch the match. The outcome is about to be determined. The crowd paused, turning their attention back to the combat below, where Qinhuanga, in overloaded mode, was barely keeping pace with Bontel, struggling to defend herself. This scene sparked a glimmer of hope among the spectators. As long as she wasn't defeated instantly, there was a chance to land a hit. In stark contrast to Mo Li's side, the atmosphere at the Obsidian Academy was filled with laughter and jeers. What kind of opponent have they chosen? Not only is she unarmed, but she also appears to be a brawler. Initiating overload right away will surely lead to her downfall once it concludes. Is she trying to save face? Bontel, don't grant her any mercy. This mech without weapons must be a combat mech, which is most adept at overcoming the strong with the weak. And what of combat mechs? The mech of Bontel is equipped with a formidable energy shield, rendering it impervious to fear. The spectators wore expressions of assured victory, and the mentors, upon learning that Qinhuanga piloted a combat mech, wore smiles of confidence. Believing there was no hope for a comeback, Bontel exhibited a grand display of attacks, yet the disparity in speed between the two was significant, making it exceedingly difficult for Qinhuanga to find an opening. The continuous parries drained a considerable amount of energy, and with the mech operating in overload mode, the energy reserves were rapidly dwindling. Gritting his teeth, Qinhuanga braced himself as Bontel's blade sliced through the air. In that moment, a large opening revealed itself in Bontel's horizontal strike, and countless scenarios flashed through Qinhuanga's mind. Ah, I've tricked you. Did you not see that coming? Ha! Wanga, you are still too young. Deception is a soldier's art. The laughter of Mo Li echoed in his thoughts as Qinhuanga evaded the blow, forcibly suppressing his urge to attack, and instead surged forward, leaping over Bontel's head. At that moment, a breach appeared in the chest of Bontel's mech. Energy coalescing within it began to dissipate rapidly as Qinhuanga positioned himself behind. Did he actually notice? Bontel's voice carried a hint of surprise. Despite being in overload mode, he was caught off guard. Suddenly, a muffled grunt escaped him. The apparent flaw he had intentionally displayed concealed a lethal counterattack. Yet it allowed Qinhuanga to successfully maneuver behind him. With a swift upward kick, the sacred White Knight's form nearly extended into a full split, delivering a fierce blow to the transmission system along Bontel's spinal column. The onlookers from Xinghe Academy were taken aback by the spectacle, and those familiar with Qinhuanga sensed an impending tempest. Mo Li, witnessing this initial move, felt a weight lift from his heart. Meanwhile, the expressions on the faces of the Black Obsidian Academy members remained unchanged, their laughter unwavering. It's futile. His defenses are unbreakable, huh? Still, that strike was quite impressive. Futile. The gap in strength is absolute. Qinhuanga was oblivious to their taunts. His gaze was solely fixed on the airborne Bontel. Confusion clouded Bontel's mind as he sensed a fleeting loss of control over his mech. Every command seemed to vanish into the abyss. In the next instant, all auxiliary engines of Qin Wanga aligned in a singular direction, sending debris scattering as the exhaust flames roared. Boom! With a forceful launch, Qin Wanga soared like an arrow released from a taut bowstring, catching up to Bontel and delivering an upward strike with precision, striking the same spot as before. As Bontel continued to ascend, Qin Wanga adjusted the engine output frequency, as instructed by Mo Li, causing her mech to tremble slightly. Despite having reached the limits of overload, the power subtly surged once more. This momentum was unleashed as she soared through the air, her knee colliding with Bontel's waist. In the astonished gaze of Bontel, both elbows descended simultaneously, crashing into the transmission system at his chest. Just as the mech had begun to regain some stability, it spiraled back into chaos. With a swift motion, 5 fingers gripped the shoulder of the Bontel mech, igniting a burst of sparks from the friction of the specialized alloy. In an instant, Qin Wanga's auxiliary thrusters flared to life, enveloping her in a radiant glow as she propelled herself forward, crashing into Bontel with a thunderous impact. As the two mechs collided, onlookers stood frozen, their scalps tingling with apprehension. In that moment, Qin Wanga appeared devoid of emotion, transforming into a relentless war machine, while Bontel seemed to be nothing more than a sandbag, offering no resistance against the tempestuous assault. With each devastating punch, before one strike could retract, the next was already upon Bontel, accompanied by merciless knee strikes that landed with precision. This was no mere pilot controlling a mech. It was a seamless embodiment of the mech itself. Such agile maneuvering left the spectators from the Obsidian Academy in a state of stunned disbelief. They could scarcely fathom that a combat mech could exhibit such fluidity and control, with attacks so fierce that merely witnessing them caused physical discomfort. Inside the mech, Bontel's defensive shield faltered under the initial blow, and upon being struck with full force by Qin Wanga, it promptly failed, unleashing a torrent of excruciating pain. Bontel felt as if his consciousness was being thrown into disarray, and the mentors from Obsidian Academy quickly recognized the alarming situation. Not only was Bontel unresponsive, but no signals were being transmitted from him. Sensing the gravity of the moment, the Academy's mentors rushed to assess Bontel's mental state. At that instant, Qin Wanga delivered another kick, sending Bontel soaring into the sky, reaching a height of 1,000 meters. Those from Star River Academy, who had a slight understanding of Qin Wanga, looked on in astonishment, realizing that she had forcefully propelled Bontel upwards from the ground. As Bontel ascended, Qin Wanga climbed higher, swiftly overtaking him. The mentors from Obsidian Academy, witnessing Bontel's faint empathic connection flickering, were struck with dread. Stop. We concede. Yet, this was merely a subconscious plea, failing to establish an official communication. With her ascent reaching full throttle, Qin Wanga soared to an altitude of 10,000 meters. As she executed a mid-air somersault, gravity and the mech's final overload speed converged, amplifying her velocity. In that moment, Qin Wanga's gaze remained fixated on the descending Bontel, her lips murmuring incantations. Accelerated by an overwhelming force, she closed the distance in mere seconds, adjusting her posture as she approached Bontel, lifting her leg high as if wielding a battle axe. Heavens collapse. We concede. With a resounding crash, Bontel, previously in free fall, was struck with tremendous force, plummeting to the desert floor like a meteor. A dune erupted, sending sand soaring 100 meters into the air. In the aftermath, silence enveloped the arena. This final blow had drained Qin Wanga's mech of energy, forcibly exiting overload mode as her frame slowly descended. The drone hovered above the swirling sands, capturing the condition of the battered Bontel. The moment the protective shield of his mech faltered as it plummeted to the ground, it marked the declaration of his defeat. Now, the prevailing concern among the onlookers was whether he still drew breath. The individuals from the Obsidian Academy were the first to react, their expressions shifting dramatically as several instructors shouted in alarm, "Quick! Save him!" The earlier atmosphere of ease was shattered, replaced by palpable panic etched across their faces. Some instructors, in their urgency, initiated their mechs to descend. Meanwhile, the Federation's rescue mechs had already ventured into the dust storm to retrieve Bontel. As the drone captured the moment Bontel's mech was extracted, a collective gasp echoed through the crowd, their eyes widening instinctively. The sight of Bontel's mech, ensnared by 2 rescue units, revealed a multitude of horrifying dents and shattered thrusters on its back, with spiderweb-like cracks sprawling ominously. This evoked memories of the forceful kick delivered by Qin Wanga moments prior. It seemed innocuous, yet the true magnitude of that strike was likely known only to Bontel himself. Additionally, a massive indentation marred his chest, the armor shattered, causing the pilots of the rescue mechs to swallow hard in disbelief. In their extensive years of experience, They had witnessed mechs obliterated and severely damaged, yet this particular mech emanated an unsettling sense of devastation. The ferocity was apparent at a mere glance. After a prolonged pause, the students of the Obsidian Academy began to process the situation. What is happening? Why? Why didn't T. Bontel deploy his shield? Something felt deeply amiss. Could this truly be the destructive capability of a mere raid-class mech? Some, unable to bear the outcome, shouted accusations of foul play. However, such outbursts remained mere expressions of frustration, as no one was foolish enough to confront the League officials, fearing disgrace for their academy. Nevertheless, many found it hard to reconcile with the result. In contrast, the reaction from the Starry River Academy was considerably more composed. As most were aware of the extraordinary combat system employed by Qin Wanga, the students jested that her abilities could unleash delayed attacks on mechs. It was evident that Bontel had been ensnared by this tactic, yet it was clear that Qin Wanga had refined her skills since the last freshman competition, managing to incapacitate Bontel's shield with her initial strike. The ensuing relentless assault left the spectators in awe, and they could not help but envision themselves in his position, fearing for their very sanity. Ouch, that kick looked painful. If that landed on me, I'd be bruised all over. It was hard to reconcile the image of the seemingly timid Wanga with the ferocity she displayed in battle. The crowd could not mask their glee. Bontel's prior arrogance had finally been subdued. Meanwhile, in the desert below, the two rescue mechs exerted considerable effort to pry open the twisted hatch of Bontel's mangled mech. Upon opening the hatch, they were met with the activated defensive shields, and Zaku, Bontel's mentor, stood nervously by, observing the scene. Bontel was a prodigy unearthed by him. Hailing from an ordinary background, with a promising future as a pillar of the academy post-graduation, the thought of losing him here was unbearable, leaving Zaku at a loss for where to grieve. As the hatch opened, two rescue mechs commenced their routine scans. Generally, as long as the shields were engaged, the pilot was relatively safe. However, the scan results sent a jolt of alarm through them, and without a moment's hesitation, they urgently called out for the application of the premium life-giving water and medical rays, stating the pilot was gravely injured and in critical condition. Upon hearing the rescue mech pilot's cries, Zaku felt a ringing in his head as he propelled his mech forward, questioning if there had been a grave misunderstanding. How could the pilot be critically injured? After all, the opponent was piloting a combat mech, where the impact was directly borne by the pilot. Zaku abruptly turned his gaze towards the distant Qin Wanga, who had deactivated her mech and awaited retrieval. At that moment, two official mechs descended from the sky, positioning themselves before him. It was not uncommon for mentors to refuse to accept reality and take matters into their own hands. When Zaku had descended in his mech earlier, the League officials had already dispatched personnel. This was a battle for the students. If there were grievances, they could approach the opposing mentor. Zaku's gaze lifted as he looked towards the floating city of the Star River Academy. The crowd there turned their attention towards Mo Lee. Mentor. It seems they wish to challenge you to a mentor battle. Their expressions were peculiar. Zaku and his peers were well aware that a tier of divine punishment pilot might be commendable within the academy, yet when compared to Mo Lee, especially after he had switched mechs, the disparity was stark. At that moment, Bontel was being rushed for emergency medical attention, and Zaku felt a simmering indignation bubbling within him, compelling him to drive his mech directly towards the floating city of the Star River Academy. This audacious move drew considerable attention. Mentor battles were commonplace. Yet a direct challenge at the gates of the opposing academy was a rarity. A palpable sense of intrigue enveloped the air as spectators turned their gazes towards this unfolding drama, particularly upon recognizing the confrontation between the Obsidian Academy and the Star River Academy, long-standing rivals. Many swiftly dispatched drones to capture the moment. Zaku, with a fierce glare, confronted the students before him. Li Sheng, unfazed, raised the protective shield of the floating city and, with a smile, inquired, "Isn't this Zaku, the mentor of the genius Bontel? What brings you here? Is it a mentor battle? Afraid of losing, perhaps?" Li Sheng, having the experience to lead the academy, was well versed in the art of verbal sparring. Though Zaku had once spoken similarly to the mentors of the Star River Academy, he now found himself unable to suppress his fury in this reversed role. The disparity was simply too vast. He could hardly fathom that Bontel would be bested by a mere tier of infiltration pilot. The glory of their prior victories was now eclipsed by the humiliation of this defeat. Let us momentarily set aside the matter of Bontel's reputation, for it is undeniably at risk. However, his dignity must be preserved. This is the Federal Academy League, where the gaze of the entire Federation is concentrated. Upon its return to the Hidden Radiance Star Domain, who would still dare to seek him as a mentor? Chapter 119. Surely it will suffice? Thus, a portion of Bontel's fury is feigned. This is not merely for his sake, but also for his own interests. What say you, Mentor Mo Lee? Li Sheng gestured toward Mo Lee with a smile. What level? Mo Lee inquired casually. Heaven's punishment. Uninteresting. Upon hearing those words, Mo Li's interest waned instantly. Regardless of the difficulty, there would be no rewards for engagement, and he would rather return home to lounge in bed, scratching his back. Li Sheng immediately perceived Mo Li's lack of enthusiasm. Just as he was about to speak, Jiang Yin interjected unexpectedly. If you win handsomely and trample the Black Yao Academy beneath your feet, the Academy will reward you. Mo Li exclaimed, "What the hell, you old coot. Activate the shield. I will take him down." Li Sheng gazed at the transformed Mo Li in astonishment. Such fervent ambition could easily lead one to believe that the Academy was his own progenitor. He hastily restrained Mo Li, who was eager to procure a mech. "Calm down. Mentor battles are conducted within the Star Network. Then log in. How dare he activate his mech in our presence, indulging him?" Jiang Yin sighed in exasperation. Although he was aware of Mo Li's apparent affinity for wealth, he had not anticipated it to this extent. It was utterly beyond remedy. However, as long as he agreed, if Mo Li could vanquish Zaku once more, their confrontation with the Black Yao Academy would already be half won. Li Sheng also called out to Zaku, "We accept. We shall retrieve the mech." Upon receiving confirmation, Zaku returned to the floating city of the Black Yao Academy with a stern expression. At this juncture, the next round of competition had already commenced. Mo Li instructed Qin Wanga to forfeit, as their opponent wielded a 2-star fortress mech, proficient in long-range attacks, evidently aiming to exploit the advantage of distance to prevent Qin Wanga from closing in. Following Qin Wanga's forfeiture, the Star River Academy was left with only one remaining arena slot, which naturally went to the strongest member of the freshman team, Zhang Xiaoxing. The Black Yao Academy had already deployed its elite. Even if a few slots remained, they would be insufficient against Zhang Xiaoxing. Their own members were disinclined to continue watching, instead approaching Zaku to inquire about the mentor battle. "Mentor Zaku, did they accept?" "They did." Zaku replied with a grim countenance. "Investigate their mentor for me. We have already procured the information. It is an honorary mech pilot." "An honorary mech pilot, huh? Have they lost their minds?" "An honorary mech pilot has arrived." One person laughed heartily, only to find the surrounding individuals wearing solemn expressions. Observing his surroundings, his laughter gradually morphed into an awkward chuckle. To be selected by their academy, the honorary mech pilot must be quite formidable. Though I hold little regard for the Star River Academy, I must concede that their judgment is commendable. Otherwise, such a policy would not exist. The lead mentors of the Black Yao Academy wore grave expressions, pondering in silence. A revelation emerged. It was discovered that this mentor had achieved a remarkable feat by defeating a sky punishment level pilot. Suddenly, an exclamation drew the attention of others. Several individuals turned to the source of the voice, who was holding a luminous screen displaying the combat footage between Mo Li and Njia. They flocked around the individual, astonished by the prospect of a fortress-level pilot vanquishing someone at the pinnacle of sky punishment. As they intently watched the video, their brows furrowed in contemplation. It seemed that this student might be employing a similar strategy. Zaku, however, felt a sense of relief. If they shared a comparable style, he could prepare in advance, making the confrontation significantly easier. Indeed, that combat armor was exceedingly peculiar. I noticed on their academy's forum that it could induce delays in the mech's transmission system, which is why Bontel had not activated the shield. The leader of the Obsidian Academy, Light, regarded Zaku with a serious expression, stating, "This time, we must secure victory in our challenge. Otherwise, we risk tarnishing the reputation of our academy." "I understand. I will not underestimate the opponent," Zaku replied. "The fortress-level adversary likely relies on that unique combat armor system to achieve victories against stronger foes, so be cautious of his close-range attacks." "Very well. I shall proceed to input the mech's information." Each academy within the floating city possessed such recording devices, and as Zaku began the input process and logged onto the StarNet, Emily did the same. The two logged onto the StarNet simultaneously, subsequently selecting their respective real-world locations. Within the StarNet, both mechs soared into the sky, gazing at one another from a distance. The StarNet, mirroring the external world, flickered with blue lights as numerous individuals simultaneously logged in, including participants from other academies alongside the two main institutions. Upon seeing Mo Li's radiant executor, Zaku's heart skipped a beat. The design of this mech was entirely different from what he had observed in the previous footage. Something felt amiss. An alarm rang in Zaku's mind. Mo Li, watching from afar, taunted, "So, are we going to fight or not?" Taking a deep breath, Zaku submitted a challenge. Once the request was approved, a colossal countdown materialized between them. As the countdown concluded, Zaku swiftly opted to create distance, while both shoulder cannons of his mech and the mounted machine gun targeted Mo Li, initiating a lock-on. Engaging from a distance? Mo Li's eyes brightened as the floating cannons deployed from his back, aiming at the distant Zaku. "Let us engage in a sniping duel." Zaku, momentarily puzzled by Mo Li's reluctance to close the gap, then realized his mech was under fire control lock. Faster than himself? With no time for further contemplation, instinct drove Zaku to activate his shield. Boom. The assembled floating cannons roared to life. A colossal beam of light streaked across several floating cities, striking Zaku's mech. The shield's energy plummeted like a receding tide. Emoli was taken aback by Zaku's audacity to withstand the hit, as he swiftly drew forth the Crimson Verdict, gripping it with both hands, while the floating cannons returned to his back with a burst of flame. His speed surged to its peak, and the distance between them rapidly diminished. Just as Zaku managed to counteract the energy impact, he looked up to find Emoli wielding the Crimson Verdict. With a resounding strike, he swung down his sword, and Zaku dared not lower his shield, attempting to create distance. He found himself astonished by the astonishing speed of the mech, which he could not shake off. He could only maintain his shield, enduring another strike. In a fleeting moment, the energy shield had depleted half of the mech's energy, leaving Zaku utterly stunned by the ferocity of his opponent's attack. How weak? Came the slightly bored voice of Emoli. Just as Zaku's anger began to rise, a myriad of crimson lights enveloped his entire field of vision. The shield shattered with a thunderous crash, and Emoli's sword sliced through Zaku's mech, effortlessly retracting the scarlet blade back to his waist. Boom. Zaku's mech erupted in a violent explosion. Now that should be quite a spectacle, Emoli murmured to himself, then returned to the side of his mentors. Upon his arrival, a hush fell over the group, their eyes shifting towards him. Students continued to log into the Star Network, arriving late after receiving word of the spectacle. Where is it? Where is it? Emoli called out, joining in the commotion. Classmates, what is the show all about? I heard Emoli's mentor is once again engaging in a divine punishment level challenge. One student exclaimed. I received the message late, but it hasn't been long, so they should still be fighting. Indeed, perhaps, Emoli nodded in agreement, oblivious to how all eyes had converged upon him. Is that it? You finished already? Jiang Yen inquired, his voice tinged with disbelief. Emoli turned at the sound and noticed the students and mentors watching him intently. Yes, didn't you say to make it look impressive? Speaking of which, wasn't that strike quite something? Emoli replied, a hint of confusion in his tone. Li's expression was a mixture of bewilderment and admiration. That strike was indeed powerful. The surrounding students, now awakening from their daze, began to grasp the situation. Yet, they could hardly accept it. Is it really over? I must have received the message just a minute ago. I've barely been standing here for 10 seconds. Is divine punishment level really that trivial? The students who had not witnessed the battle were in disbelief, struggling to comprehend the situation. They had heard tales of Li's ability to slay opponents of a higher tier, yet they had not anticipated such a swift victory. Moreover, he was a mentor from the Hidden Radiance Academy. Even among those of the same divine punishment level, their strength should be among the elite. Thus, they gazed at Li with a mix of admiration and incredulity. Hey, Li spread his arms wide. Don't look at me like that. It's not like I'm a star ring level. How could I possibly fight to the death? The crowd's expressions turned even more dismal. Listen, is that even a reasonable comparison? Star ring level? Do you think it's as easy as picking cabbages? It's true you can surpass the divine punishment level. But surpassing the star ring level is a stretch. The students who had come for naught sighed in resignation, while those who had witnessed the entire event were left wide-eyed. Their expressions akin to those of the lost, lamenting their missed opportunity to encounter a worthy master. Leaving Li feeling a surge of anxiety as he contemplated fleeing the scene. In the end, it was Li Sheng who came to his rescue, saying, All right, everyone disperse. Mentor Li won this battle splendidly. Upon hearing this, Li approached with a sense of pride, replying, Splendid indeed. When will the payment be credited to my account? He then recited the account number he had memorized by heart. Jiang Yan, feeling helpless, pulled him away while quietly stating, You 1T be shortchanged. Now, you must explain to me how that consecutive slash was executed. Using the teleportation feature, Jiang Yan transported the two to an uninhabited space, his expression grave. I don't recall setting this up on the mecha. Auxiliary thrusters, don't you know? Simply activate one set of auxiliary thrusters halfway during the strike. Then switch to the inactive set for the retraction, while the first set enters a preheating state. Li explained earnestly. However, Jiang Yin felt a chill run down his spine. Following Li's instructions, he had not heavily armed his arm with hegemonic technology. Instead, he had allocated the saved space and energy from the shield to install auxiliary thrusters. The auxiliary thrusters on this Saint Radiance Judicator were twice as many as those on a comparable Judgment Mecha. Li had insisted he install them. Yet he never anticipated Li's empathy would be so strong, capable of managing such extensive connection controls. This left Jiang Yin feeling somewhat insecure. Wasn't he the maximum empathy supposed to be 100? He scrutinized Li, searching for answers. Logically, with so many auxiliary thruster switches, the empathy burden should be exceedingly high. Moreover, the auxiliary thruster engines on the St. Radiance Judicator were not meant to be used in groups, as Mo Li had described. Each engine operated independently. When Jiang Yin had first crafted it, he had jokingly asked Mo Li if it was intended to function like human muscles. Mo Li had retorted, "What else could it be?" At that time, Jiang Yin had assumed he was jesting, but now it seemed otherwise. Yet, if Mo Li could indeed maximize the use of these auxiliary thrusters, such operations must come effortlessly to him. Meanwhile, at Black Obsidian Academy, Zaku remained in a daze. Having lost so quickly it felt surreal, as if he were dreaming before the battle had even commenced. Yet, the complex gazes of his peers served as a stark reminder that this was no dream, but reality. The sensation of failure washed over him like a tidal wave, and Zaku's pupils constricted sharply. At that moment, time seemed to still, even as the discussions among students and mentors grew louder around him. What happened? He lost so swiftly. Is Mentor Zaku truly of judgment rank? Something feels off. Could it be deliberate? How could that be? I suspect there is some discrepancy in his rank. The murmurs pierced his heart like needles. Zaku's complexion began to pale, but upon noticing that most of those discussing were students and mentors of lesser strength, he was instantly filled with rage. What do you know? His thunderous shouts silenced many, yet the skepticism in their eyes felt like sharp blades cutting into him. At this moment, Zaku could distinctly sense that his mindset was not as robust as he had anticipated. This recent defeat was particularly difficult for him to accept, especially after hearing others claim that Mo Li was merely an honor pilot of humble origins. Zaku's composure shattered completely, prompting him to log off from the Star Network. As for the spectators who had initially hoped for an exhilarating spectacle, they found themselves momentarily stunned. Wasn't this supposed to be a battle of divine retribution? Why did it resemble the combat against the Stellar Ring? Such thoughts lingered in the minds of the onlookers. Meanwhile, the more astute observers had already scrutinized the recorded footage. Through slow-motion playback, they discerned that just before Mo Li delivered his final strike, the speed of his crimson judgment surged exponentially, creating a phantasm that shattered Zaku's shield. This singular maneuver left the audience in a state of bewilderment. Achieving such rapid strikes with a divine retribution-level transmission system seemed nearly impossible. Furthermore, upon closer examination, they noted the varying intensities of luminescence emanating from the auxiliary thrusters of the Holy Light Judicator during each strike. Consequently, the crowd found themselves somewhat perplexed, instinctively attributing this technique to the hegemonic technology of the Galaxy Academy. A brief inquiry revealed familiar stylistic elements associated with Jiang Yin on Mo Li's mech. Coupled with Mo Li's background and achievements, along with Jiang Yan's bounty, they quickly deduced that the mech was likely a product of Jiang Yin's ingenuity. In the realm of academia, particularly at this level, everyone was engaged in research, often crossing paths and maintaining contact. It was not long before someone approached Jiang Yin. "Professor Jiang, it's been a while. I've heard about some new technology you've developed. Is it sufficient to qualify as hegemonic technology?" "Professor Jiang, I've heard there have been breakthroughs in your research." "Professor Jiang, regarding our previous discussion about collaboration faced with the sudden enthusiasm of these individuals." Jiang Yin quickly grasped the situation. They had evidently mistaken Mo Li's prowess as his own achievement. Thus, he resolutely declined their propositions. "It's not me. It's purely his individual skill. This lad possesses an extraordinary sense of empathy, and the auxiliary thrusters of the Holy Light Judicator operate independently." Upon receiving this clarification, the group instinctively chose to disbelieve him. However, upon realizing it was Jiang Yin speaking, they felt compelled to trust his words. In their circles, Jiang Yin was notoriously serious, and the likelihood of him deceiving them was exceedingly low. Much like his proud technological advancement, the dual-pilot mech, which had once astonished the entire tech community, he had candidly shared the details of that breakthrough without hesitation. Jiang Yin, somewhat exasperated, began to explain to the crowd one by one, preparing to exit the Star Network when he noticed a request for spatial communication. Initially inclined to refuse, he paused upon seeing the name displayed, Pan Chunfeng. Jiang Yin recalled that the two had little in common. Pan Chunfeng was stationed far away in the Qinming Star region, separated from the Dongli Star region by the Yunming Star region. Moreover, his research was focused on mech transmission systems. Why was the other party reaching out all of a sudden? With a spirit of academic exchange, Jiang Yin ultimately decided to accept the call. In a realm of spatial transformation, Jiang Yin found himself in a room. Opposite him, countless points of light coalesced, forming a middle-aged man clad in a white long shirt, with slightly long hair and thick glasses. "Professor Jiang, you have arrived. Please, take a seat." Pan Chunfeng, clearly taken aback by Jiang Yan's acceptance of the invitation, displayed a moment of excitement. Once Jiang Yan settled into his seat, Pan took his place across from him, fixing his gaze intently upon Jiang Yan. Jiang Yan felt no offense. Those engaged in scientific research often exhibited such directness, devoid of unnecessary formalities. It was evident that Pan Chunfeng sought to extract some technological insight from him. Indeed, as Pan spoke, Jiang Yan's suspicions were confirmed. Professor Jiang, did you create this mech? With a wave of his hand, Pan conjured a holographic display showcasing the battle between Mo Li and Zaku. I did, Jiang Yan replied, having no reason to deny it. Upon his affirmation, Pan Chunfeng's breathing grew noticeably heavier, a peculiar reaction that caused Jiang Yan to furrow his brow. Was he perhaps a bit too excited? Professor Jiang, is his rapid successive slashing a result of hegemony technology? Pan Chunfeng's eyes bore a hint of bloodshot urgency as he fixed his stare on Jiang Yan. It is not hegemony technology. How can that be? Pan's voice suddenly rose, his words tumbling out in a rush. The mech's transmission system is linked to the empathic interface. Each movement imposes a burden on the system. In that instant, he executed 13 strikes. No one could possibly endure such a level of empathic load. The only way to replicate it would be to isolate the arm's system and utilize intelligent programming. But without the empathic connection, achieving this in terms of transmission is nearly impossible. How did he manage it? Pan Chunfeng instinctively crossed his hands before him, bowing his head in murmured contemplation, his fingers fidgeting at the elbow joint. How can the transmission system exert force akin to muscle fibers? What is the method to accomplish this? Seeing his state, Jiang Yan recognized that Pan had entered a vortex of thought. He, too, often found himself lost in contemplation for hours over certain problems. Just as Jiang Yan prepared to refrain from interrupting, Pan unexpectedly spoke up. May I meet him for a discussion? That depends on him, Jiang Yan replied, refraining from making a commitment on Mo Li's behalf. I can inquire on your behalf. All right, Pan Chunfeng replied, somewhat dazed as he sank back into his seat. Jiang Yan sighed in resignation. It was clear that Pan was becoming somewhat obsessed. As his figure vanished, Jiang Yan sought out Mo Li. What is it? Mo Li queried, puzzled by Jiang Yan's request for a private conversation. There is a professor, Jiang Yan explained Pan Chunfeng's situation, who seems eager to find inspiration from you. Inspiration? What inspiration? It's merely operations, Mo Li responded, bewildered, as he struggled to grasp the intricacies of scientific inquiry. I don't know. I haven't agreed yet. Do you wish to meet him? Meeting him wouldn't hurt. Let us go, Mo Li acquiesced. Although he did not fully comprehend, he held a profound respect for the scientists dedicated to their research, recognizing them as the bedrock of their era. Besides, it was merely a meeting to engage in conversation. There was nothing more to it. Very well. With Mo Li's consent, Jiang Yan promptly led him to the room where Pan Chunfeng awaited. Pan Chunfeng remained lost in thought, his eyes vacant, until they gradually focused on Mo Li upon their arrival. Without the slightest pretense of pleasantries, he directly inquired, how did you execute that move? Mo Li instinctively recoiled a bit at the proximity of Pan Chunfeng, responding, what? That, the rapid successive strikes. The speed surpassed that of ordinary mechs. And Jiang Yan mentioned it ISNT from hegemony technology. Oh, you mean that? Mo Li suddenly realized, reiterating what he had previously discussed with Jiang Yan. After hearing this, Pan Chunfeng stood frozen in disbelief. According to Mo Li's explanation, such a maneuver could only be performed through his formidable empathic ability, rendering it nearly impossible for others to replicate. Furthermore, this was a human operation, making it exceedingly challenging to replicate in a mech. How could this be? How could this be? Pan Chunfeng repeatedly tugged at his hair, his eyes gradually filling with blood vessels. Sensing the escalating tension, Jiang Yan hurriedly intervened. Professor Pan, there's no need to rush. The path of research is inherently fraught with difficulties. Pan Chunfeng, his bloodshot eyes fixed on Jiang Yan, exclaimed, but I am out of time. Jiang Yan shuddered. In that moment, he saw a reflection of desperate madness in Pan Chunfeng's gaze. In an instant, Pan Chunfeng vanished, evidently having logged off, leaving Mo Li and Jiang Yan staring at each other in bewilderment. This is quite mad, isn't it? Mo Li remarked candidly. Jiang Yan remained silent, recognizing a semblance of himself within Pan Chunfeng. During his own research on dual mechs, he had experienced a similar obsession, until he encountered two girls who were like granddaughters to him. With this thought, he sighed in resignation. The path of research is indeed arduous, and many have unwittingly trapped themselves in a cul-de-sac. He knew not the nature of Pan Chunfeng's fixation, and being from a different field, he could offer no assistance. Only heartfelt wishes for success. Meanwhile, after logging off, Pan Chunfeng entered a dimly lit room. The faint glimmer suggested the space was quite expansive. Darkness did not hinder his vision as he approached a colossal, indistinct object, fumbling to press a button. A warm yellow glow flickered to life before him. Daddy, you're here. A sweet, melodious voice chimed, causing Pan Chunfeng to momentarily lose his composure. He reached out toward the warm glow, discerning that it appeared to be a glass pane, behind which was a cherubic visage. Adjacent to the face, instead of a neck or shoulders, loomed a writhing gray-green flesh wall. Daddy, you're here. The innocent face, eyes closed, moved its lips to speak. Daddy, you're here. Tears streamed down Pan Xuanfeng's cheeks as he yearned to touch that face through the glass, whispering, Xiao Dai, it's your father's inadequacy. It's your father's failure. I cannot save you. In that moment, Pan Xuanfeng was utterly overcome with grief. Daddy, you're here. That visage seemed to unconsciously echo a singular phrase, one that Pan Xuanfeng appeared to have grown accustomed to. Father, save me. Suddenly, Pan Xuanfeng, who had been weeping with his head lowered, lifted his gaze, his eyes wide with astonishment as he beheld Xiao Dai. Xiao Dai, it is I, your father. Save me. It hurts, it hurts. A look of anguish surfaced upon Xiao Dai's countenance, her brows knitted tightly, and her once unconscious murmurs shifted, each syllable seemingly a Herculean effort. Yet, this transformation ignited a glimmer of hope within Pan Xuanfeng. For 20 long years, 2 full decades, ever since Xiao Dai had succumbed to her condition, she had uttered naught but this single phrase. A sudden thought struck him, recalling the recent breakthroughs in his experiments, during which he had mentioned to Xiao Dai the commencement of a new phase. Could it be that the effects were finally manifesting? As he observed the pained expression etched on Xiao Dai's face, his heart ached like a dagger, and in a flurry of anxiety, he reached out to touch her cheek. Yet his fingers could not bridge the distance. Desperately, he sought to open the glass barrier, but at that moment, Xiao Dai's features began to soften, and she resumed her unconscious murmurs. Father, you have come. Pan Xuanfeng froze momentarily, then abruptly rose, neglecting to deactivate the apparatus as he rushed from the room to his laboratory, where he accessed the star network to commence his documentation. Day 7462, Xiao Dai has exhibited preliminary signs of self-awareness, possibly linked to the success of Phase 1 of the experiment. Having completed his record, Pan Xuanfeng exhaled deeply, then sought a means of communication. Professor Pan? The voice on the other end expressed evident confusion at his contact. What is it? There have been issues recently. Resources are scarce, and we will need to wait. Pan Xuanfeng's expression hardened. I have successfully concluded Phase 2. We now require additional subjects to initiate Phase 3. If Phase 3 succeeds, there will be no exceptions. After a brief silence, the voice replied, Are you serious? I have never deceived you. The primary source has been severed. It is improbable to reclaim it, and we must seek alternatives from various star domains. Pan Xuanfeng retorted coldly. I care not from where you procure them, but the integrity of the experiment is indispensable for its fruition. At this juncture, an idea struck him. There is another individual. If you can bring him, we may not need any other subjects. Who? An honorary pilot from the Star River Academy, named Mo Li. Mo Li? The voice on the other end rose sharply. Why him? The reaction of the other party indicated familiarity with this individual, leaving Pan Xuanfeng perplexed. Do you know him? He is unlike the others. If he participates, I am 91% confident of success in Phase 3. Absolutely not. That individual is unequivocally off limits. Without hesitation, the voice rejected the suggestion. Pan Xuanfeng was taken aback. Previously, for the sake of his research outcomes, resources had been provided without limit, and no request, no matter how outrageous, had been denied. Why now then? Did the mention of an honorary pilot from the Star River Academy pose such a challenge? Why not? The other party, evidently agitated, responded with growing impatience. This individual is capable of eliminating singularity-level pilots. Do you not comprehend why? Singularity level. Pan Xuanfeng's pupils contracted in disbelief. How could that be? How could he possibly be a singularity-level pilot? What happened in the chaotic star domain? How did Batul die? The voice on the other end inquired coldly. In the chaotic star domain, a new anomaly has emerged. Is that person Mo Li? Indeed. Currently, very few are privy to information regarding the chaotic star domain, and any attempt to intervene can only be executed through a war initiated by the Federation. The might of a singularity-level pilot is something you should comprehend. Pan Xuanfeng's thoughts raced. Why would the Star River Academy involve themselves? Do they know? It is highly probable they do not. We speculate this may be a personal endeavor of Mo Li. Mo Li, Mo Li, Pan Xuanfeng murmured the name. Was he not under a bounty from the Empire? If the Empire intervenes, could they capture him? Or perhaps execute an assassination while he is unarmed? Assassination? The other party seemed to ponder this. Do you think it is feasible? Beside him stands Victor. Do you believe there is a chance? Upon hearing this, Pan Xuanfeng instinctively clenched his fists. There is a chance. Utilize the results from Phase 1 of the experiment. You must be mad. That device is still unstable. Do you wish to expose us? Phase 2 has already been completed. The minor side effects of Phase 1 are negligible. If you do not wish to witness Phase 3, then let it be. The other party remained silent for a long while before finally asking, if I were to capture him for you, would there truly be a 91% chance of success with Phase 3? You know, I am not doing this for myself. Very well. The Academy's competition continues. In the second-year match against the Onyx Academy, Star River Academy was unable to prevail. However, this time, the Onyx Academy was surprisingly subdued, engaging in a normal battle without taunts. Emily found it curious, to which Jiang Yin chuckled. They dare not, for this year's defeat is an inevitable outcome. So confident. Naturally. Beside them, Yi Lingyin crossed her arms, her expression devoid of emotion, stating, they cannot win against the third year. Emily turned to her. Why? I recall you are the leader of the third year. Are you certain you can secure victory? Yi Lingyin's fists clenched instantly. She realized that Emily could hardly utter anything insightful. He never afforded her an opportunity to respond, as each time he spoke, he could nearly infuriate her to death. If it were not for the fact that she could not best him, Yi Lingyin would have cherished the chance to silence him. Chapter 123. The black market. The skepticism etched on Emily's face was unmistakable, and Yi Lingyin seethed with frustration as the third-year competition was about to commence. Yi Lingyin entered the arena with a dark expression, being the first to step forward. Her opponent could not help but feel a pang of apprehension upon seeing her demeanor. The reputation of the Aurora twins was well known, especially following the recent downfall of Yi Lingyin, which suggested that their pent-up anger would surely be unleashed upon them. Yi Lingyin's mech retained the essence of the absolute sound style, albeit this one was of a higher caliber. The first battle swiftly commenced, and her opponent was no weakling. A Bastion 7-star, considered quite standard in the third year. As the match began, Yi Lingyin's thrusters roared to life, launching into an aerial assault while activating her 5-sound resonance cannon, unleashing a torrent of multicolored energy projectiles. The individual instinctively sought to ascend and evade a round of ranged attacks. However, Yi Lingyin, employing the 5-sound resonance cannon during her high-speed flight, was granted the opportunity to close the distance. As she approached, 2 horns on her back slid into her hands, resembling twin short swords. With one blade, she parried an incoming strike, then swiftly thrust the other, compelling the opponent's energy shield to yield. Yet, before he could create distance, a surge of energy coalesced around Yi Lingyin's waist, and a robust particle beam struck the shield of his mech with tremendous force. The mech was forced backward by the violent energy impact. In that moment, Yi Lingyin hurled her twin swords into the air, where they spun rapidly, and her armored hands transformed, forming 2 5-sound resonance cannons. As the barrels rotated, a torrent of colorful particles inundated the mech, causing its shield energy to plummet. Helpless against the onslaught, he could only cry out in terror, I concede. The system promptly declared him defeated, and Yi Lingyin ceased her energy discharge, catching the twin blades she had previously thrown and sheathing them at the horns on her shoulders. Casting a glance toward the academy, she let out a cold huff, seemingly conveying a silent message. Meanwhile, Emily observed, Wang Ge, while the focused 3-cannon attack appears formidable, it wastes energy. Furthermore, if the opponent is prepared, a miss on the first shot results in a role reversal, quite passive. Emily critically assessed, while Qin Wang Ge nodded gravely beside her. Instructor, what should we do? To which Emily replied, we should initiate an assault with the dual blades. The opponent's speed and reaction are evidently inferior to hers. A swift attack will suffice without unnecessary flair. I understand, instructor. Subsequently, the Obsidian Academy dispatched more participants, yet they failed to pose any significant challenge to Yi Lingyin. Although she was inconsequential before Emily, she easily surpassed these challengers. Both academies were not surprised by the outcome of the battle. After all, Yi Lingyin's dominance ranked among the top in their cohort, reaching a level akin to the prodigies of the Yunming and Mingqin star domains, unless unforeseen circumstances arose. The third-year competition for the Obsidian Academy was destined for defeat. Their only hope for redemption lay in the team battle scheduled for the following day. In the first year, Bontel was severely injured and would undoubtedly be unable to participate, while Qin Wangji's combat style was ill-suited for team battles. The first-year competition still held an element of suspense, whereas in the third year, the absence of Yi Lingyin cast doubt on whether the Xinghe Academy's team would maintain their invincible streak of previous years. Overall, the hidden Obsidian Academy still harbored aspirations for advancement. That evening, Emily declined Jiang Yan's invitation for a gathering and returned to the space station on the rock planet. Seabass had rented a warehouse there to store 2 mechs. I have located the black market here, on the planet's surface, he informed her. Following his gaze, Emily observed the distant rock planet, its surface dotted with bases established by various factions in the Yunming star domain, with the black market nestled within. These 2 mechs can be transported in, correct? Certainly, I have arranged the channels. The day after tomorrow, the Academy will take a break after the competition, and the black market will be open during that time. Emily nodded slightly. The following day, the Academy team competition commenced. Black Yao Academy, lacking the formidable presence of Bontel, exhibited a significant decline in strength. It remained uncertain whether the defeat of their most talented genius had dampened their morale, as Xinghe Academy triumphed with remarkable ease. In the second year, the absence of a powerful contender led to an expected loss. Soon, The highly anticipated battle of the third year arrived, drawing the attention of many towards Yi Lingyin. They were eager to see if she could uphold the banner of the academy after the departure of Yi Lingyin. The outcome of the battle did not disappoint them. Yi Lingyin's performance in the team battle was outstanding. Her leadership and tactics were impeccably arranged, and her personal strength was formidable, acting as a sharp blade that tore through the enemy's formation. After the match, it felt as if everyone had come to a renewed understanding of her. Previously, Yi Lingyin was known for her gentle demeanor and impressive strength, earning the admiration of her opponents and the affection of her teammates. Now, however, she radiated an aura akin to a cold and sharp blade, seemingly intent on severing all obstacles in her path. Xinghe Academy successfully advanced, alongside 4 other academies from the Mingqin and Yundream Star regions. Each star region contributed 2 academies, leading to a round of 16, with the remaining 3 academies being the other institution from the Yinyao Star region, known as Grey Rock Academy, the Interstellar United Academy from the Lu Ying Star region, and the St. Tree Combat Academy from the Shilling Star region. Following the advancement, the draw for the next round took place, coinciding with a rest period. Mo Li chose not to attend the draw, but instead accompanied Seabass in piloting a spacecraft, transporting 2-star ring-level mechas to the surface of the black market. This black market was nestled within the largest mountain range of the planet, its interior excavated and transformed into a bustling marketplace. The vast interior bore little difference to a city, as Seabass navigated the spacecraft to a mountain face. After a brief pause, a communication request arrived. Seabass presented their pass and entered the mountain's depths. The entire interior had been modified, revealing a lengthy spacecraft glide channel nearly a kilometer long. Upon passing through the tunnel, they entered an immense space where Seabass parked the spacecraft on a vast platform, gazing down at the brightly illuminated city below. Mr. Mo Li, we have arrived. This black market is impressive. Mo Li rose to peer through the window. What is next? Have you contacted the buyers? No need to reach out. The black market will handle that for us. These 2-star ring-level mechas are esteemed treasures. The corners of Seabass's mouth twitched as he noted that selling the star ring-level mechas here would bolster their reputation. That sounds splendid. Mo Li replied, eager to disembark. Seabass halted him, suggesting that it would be prudent to conceal their identities within the black market. This is a holographic projection device, a trivial gadget, yet sufficient for a black market devoid of detector entry. It will serve its purpose well, Seabass explained to Mo Li as he presented a small device. Turning back, he realized that Mo Li had undergone a transformation. This is how it is used. As for the codename, there's no need for that. Just call me Wu Yinzu. Mo Li interrupted Seabass, declaring, from this moment on, I shall be known as Wu Yinzu. Very well. Henceforth I shall address you as Wu Yinzu. After uttering these words, Seabass's visage became indistinct, transforming into a face characterized by excessive flesh. Mr. Wu, you may simply call me Panshur. Seabass's voice took on a somber tone. Mo Li, slightly astonished, circled around him, noting that this countenance seemed entirely incongruous with his meticulously arranged attire. Let us be on our way. The two departed from the landing pad, renting a nearby hover vehicle to venture into the city. Seabass piloted the vehicle with remarkable steadiness, while Mo Li observed the surrounding populace, all of whom concealed their faces behind holographic projections. This iteration of the black market was initiated due to the Academy League, as previous occurrences of the black market had adhered to specific cycles, with little to no activity outside these designated periods. Mo Li noticed that among the crowd were many youthful students. It was only through the perspective granted by Xuanji that he realized these individuals appeared considerably older to the naked eye. Clearly, everyone was concealing their true selves. By the way, where shall we sell the mechas? Mo Li inquired, puzzled. We shall find an agent, Seabass replied earnestly. This black market, though deemed black, was essentially in a semi-public state, backed by several resources from the Yunmeng Star domain. Consequently, many corporate factions had established outposts here. Our objective is to locate the outpost of the Tianwu Shinji Company. Shinji? Mo Li gasped, instinctively asking, do they possess divine machines? Seabass pondered for a moment. If it pertains to Goeishu-level mechas, calling them divine machines would not be an exaggeration, would it? No. Mo Li gently shook his head. Seabass, do you possess any real understanding of divine machines? Seabass was momentarily taken aback. His knowledge of mechas was limited to the scant information available online. If it is Goeishu level, it should be capable of wielding weapons that can devastate stars, correct? No, Seabass. Merely being able to destroy stars does not qualify it as a divine machine. Seabass found himself at a loss, for at that moment, Mo Li's gaze was profoundly contemplative, as though his thoughts had drifted to the true mechas worthy of the title divine machine. In a daze, the two had already arrived at their destination. Mr. Wu, we have arrived. Let us proceed. Mo Li appeared to regain his usual demeanor, yet for reasons unknown, Seabass felt an undercurrent of sadness in him. The hover vehicle halted in the parking area adjacent to the building, and the two exited to enter within. The League had brought an immense influx of people to the Yunming Star Domain, and at this moment, the black market was likely bustling with activity. Upon entering the building, they encountered a considerable number of individuals. The ground floor featured a vast exhibition hall, soaring over 50 meters in height, with a multitude of stands showcasing a variety of items. At first glance, most of the displayed items were mechanical in nature, as those that found their way to the black market were predominantly contraband. Emily also spotted several mechas, each surrounded by a crowd significantly larger than that at other displays. In addition to the mechas, various human weapons and mecha armaments drew considerable attention. Emily even beheld a cannon emblazoned with the name Supremacy Technology. Can Supremacy Technology also be sold? Emily mused with uncertainty. The black market, after all, operates quite normally. Seabass wore an expression of indifference, unperturbed by the emergence of any new item in the black market. Such objects, only suitable for weaponry, could not be reverse-engineered due to the existence of deconstruction protocols in hegemonic technology. He spoke as he guided Emily into a VIP room. Upon entering, Seabass announced, "We have a reservation to sell mechas." Xuanji detected a sensing device. As Seabass's words echoed, the device flickered in response. "Very well, please wait a moment. Our internal staff will be with you shortly." The two found a place to sit, and before long, an internal staff member arrived. She was a woman of exquisite beauty, clad in light attire, her face adorned with a gentle smile as she approached them. "Good day, gentlemen. My name is Lan Lan, a level 4 appraiser. May I ask how you are addressed?" Wu Yinzu. Panshur. Emily felt a stir within. She had anticipated the arrival of a mere ornament, yet was instead greeted by a level 4 appraiser. Appraisers are a unique profession within the black market, their appraisal levels roughly corresponding to the levels of mechas. The 7 tiers include Sentinel, Assault, Bastion, Divine Punishment, Star Ring, Singularity, and Return to Ruins. A level 4 appraiser is capable of assessing mechas at the Divine Punishment level or the weapon technologies they contain. Level 4 is insufficient. While Emily pondered, Seabass suddenly interjected, "We wish to sell Star Ring level mechas." Lanlin's smile momentarily faltered before she replied, "If it is indeed Star Ring level, we may require proof." "Certainly." Seabass projected the prepared image data. These are the specific parameters of the Star Ring level mechas. Such information cannot be obtained without considerable understanding. As a level 4 appraiser, Lan possessed a discerning eye. Upon her first glance, she recognized that both mechas surpassed the Divine Punishment level in various parameters. The presence of several technologies without renowned origins further corroborated the classification of these mechas. Typically, Divine Punishment level mechas could not accommodate such an abundance of hegemonic technology, as the energy consumption and resonance burden would exceed their limits. After swiftly reviewing the data, Lan nodded slightly. "I understand. Please wait a moment. I will consult with the district supervisor." Indeed, they had level 5 appraisers here, albeit only 2, one of whom was the highest authority in this location. However, level 5 appraisers usually only evaluated items that their level 4 counterparts could not accurately assess, and Lan was already certain that these 2 mechas were unequivocally Star Ring level. Having spoken, Lan departed briskly, and within minutes returned accompanied by a tall woman. The woman approached with a smile and introduced herself. "Good day, I am Hong He, the head of the Tianwu Shinji at the Yunming Black Market. I understand you wish to sell Star Ring level mechas?" "Indeed. We have reviewed the data and can preliminarily confirm that they are indeed Star Ring level mechas. May we see the actual items?" This step was paramount. While the preceding data might have been acquired through dubious means, the detailed first-hand parameters warranted a closer inspection. "Of course," Seabass replied in a measured tone. "Please follow me." Hong He leaned slightly forward, gesturing for them to proceed. Emily and Seabass rose to their feet, with Seabass trailing slightly behind Emily. This subtle movement did not escape the notice of Hong He and Lan. The two were guided by Hong He through a dedicated passageway, where they boarded a spacious business hovercraft, heading towards the address provided by Seabass. The hovercraft, a product of Tianwu Shinji, was notably understated, lacking ostentatious designs or logos, thus attracting little attention as they departed. Upon arriving at the docking area, Hong He gazed in astonishment at the ship before them, a vessel that could only be described as a limited edition. Such ships had largely been phased out, now relegated to use by impoverished planets in remote star regions. "Are there 2 Star Ring-class mechas on board?" she wondered aloud. Seabass and Emily disembarked, making their way towards the ship's belly, where they opened a small hatch. Observing this, Lan hurriedly stepped forward to Hong He. "It's fine," Hong He reassured her with a gentle wave of her hand. "We are in the Yunming Star region. With a company base nearby, there is nothing to worry about." After a brief pause, she added, "If this is genuine, it could be an extraordinary opportunity for us." Lan lowered her gaze, fully aware that selling 2-star ring-class mechas here could significantly enhance their reputation. Let us proceed, Hong He encouraged, patting her hand as they followed Mo Li into the ship's interior. The passageway within the vessel revealed its antiquated design, yet Hong He paid little heed to it. Suddenly, Lon Lon recalled something and whispered 2 words to Hong He. Source, Hong He exclaimed, smacking her forehead before hastily catching up to the 2 men. Gentlemen, she called out just as Seabass was about to open a hatch. What's wrong? He inquired. My apologies. I forgot to mention a rule of the black market regarding the source of the mechas, she explained. Mo Li's expression shifted slightly, and Seabass's demeanor darkened, as he had not been previously informed of this stipulation. Noticing their reactions, Hong He quickly clarified, this does not pertain to a detailed examination of the origin, but rather a specific source, particularly in relation to mechas classified above Tianfa level. We understand that Star Ring class mechas involve numerous complexities, thus requiring a general overview of their origin, be it from combat or derived from a laboratory. The 2 men's expressions eased somewhat, as the black market typically frowned upon inquiries regarding provenance. As for the source, you may simply take a look, Seabass stated before opening the hatch. Behind this door lay the cargo hold of the ship, a vast space. As the hatch swung open, Lon Lon and Hong He immediately beheld the 2 mechas, Judgment Apostle and Flame Blade Tyrant. Upon sighting them, both women instinctively widened their eyes in disbelief. Each mecha bore a gaping, grotesque breach in the cockpit, as if pierced by some formidable energy weapon. They exchanged glances, their astonishment evident in their eyes. Remarkably, aside from the critical damage to the cockpits, the rest of the mechas appeared utterly pristine. Nevertheless, the black market's aversion to questioning origins compelled them to suppress their initial shock, for battle-damaged mechas would necessitate thorough scanning and testing. Only the life support system of the cockpit was damaged. I withdrew my hand. The other modules remain unscathed. Suddenly, Mo Li spoke. Both Lon Lon and Hong He trembled. The implication of Mo Li's words was profound. Furthermore, what do you mean by saying I held back? These are 2-star ring-class mechs. Hong He could not help but swallow hard, forcing a smile as she remarked, if only the life support system and some armor were compromised, we should be able to sell them for a price close to their original value. Surely not. Seabass interjected. You should understand that such a breach in the cockpit signifies what it entails. The pilot could not possibly survive. This merely means there is little to worry about in terms of retaliation. As the discussion turned to pricing, Hong He quickly regained her composure, acknowledging the fact, but noted that Star Ring class mechs are typically backed by significant powers, which cannot be used as a condition. Perhaps we should first examine the mechs before deciding? Very well. Hong He approached the 2 mechs, gazing up at the iron behemoths. The black market in the Yunming Star Domain is quite renowned. After the lotteries, various academies often come here to browse. It serves to broaden the students' horizons and also to see if they can unearth some valuable items. During the league's break period, the opening of the black market has become a customary practice. Brother Imo-chun, there are so many contraband items here. A group of 5 walked along, with 2 girls marveling at the wares on display at the black market. After all, it is a black market. The man named Imo-chun wore a slight smile, saying, Sister Ru Yao, you may not know, but we seldom come here. However, it is said that good items frequently appear, including some imperial specialties. Imperial specialties? Jiang Ru Yao exclaimed softly. I have heard that the weapon technology from the Empire is quite advanced. It would be wonderful to acquire an imperial lightsaber. Not necessarily. High-end goods from the Empire do not circulate here. The power of what does come out pales in comparison to the weapons from our Deep Space Prophet Academy. Is that so? How impressive. Another girl, named Lu Xingran, gazed on with envy. The expressions of the 2 girls filled the 3 boys with a sense of satisfaction, prompting them to elaborate further. The next day, after the lottery concluded, the competition officially began. Whether by coincidence or fortune, the Xingha Academy did not draw the 4 death lists from the Yunming Star Domain and the Mingqin Star Domain, but instead faced the Grey Rock Academy from the Hidden Radiance Star Domain. The strength of Grey Rock Academy is comparable to that of the Obsidian Academy. Li Sheng initially believed it would be an easy battle, only to find himself embroiled in a grueling contest during the arena matches. Grey Rock Academy tends to be relatively low-key within the Hidden Radiance Star Domain, with less renown compared to the Obsidian Academy. Many subconsciously assumed that the Obsidian Academy was superior to Grey Rock Academy. However, in this battle, Grey Rock Academy showcased its true strength. After 3 rounds of arena matches, Xingha Academy emerged only by the skin of their teeth, drenched in sweat, securing a narrow victory. The following day's matches were similarly challenging, with only the 3rd-year team led by Yi Lingyin exhibiting overwhelming dominance. The other contests were exceptionally arduous. One single competition caused many to re-evaluate their perception of Grey Rock Academy. The remarkable performance of Yi Lingyin from the Star River Academy has indeed etched her name in the memories of many. The fall of one of the auroral Geminis has sent ripples across various academies, prompting speculation about the potential impact on Yi Lingyin, given the well-known bond she shared with her sister. There were even whispers that, following Yi Lingyun's demise, Yi Lingyin had contemplated ending her own life. However, it appears that Yi Lingyin has not only remained unaffected, but has also exhibited an astonishing enhancement in her prowess. In the past few days, astonishing news has emerged from the black market. Star Ring class mechs are available for sale. The announcement triggered a wave of excitement within the Cloud Dream star domain. Star Ring class mechs are not commonplace in their daily lives. Each one is a chariot of renowned powerhouses within the star domain or a cutting-edge product from a laboratory. Typically, such items are unveiled at grand releases or exhibitions, and their appearance in the black market signifies that something significant has transpired. The Tianwu Divine Machinery Company has even organized an auction, and the circulating information is nothing short of sensational. These two mechs were acquired through combat. This revelation has caused a stir across all sectors. The implication of combat acquisition suggests the fall of Star Ring class pilots. This is not the perilous battlefield of the Zerg. Within the relatively tranquil confines of the Federation's territory, what circumstances could lead to the loss of two Star Ring class mechs? The public remains unaware. Yet their eagerness to uncover the truth is unabated. In no time, whispers of intrigue filled the Federation's domains, with numerous individuals covertly seeking information. Initially, it was presumed that, like before, little would be uncovered. Yet this time, the identities of the two Star Ring class pilots were actually discovered. The names of the notorious Vulture and Shi Yang had resonated loudly in previous years, both hailed as the most promising candidates for ascension to Star Ring class pilots. However, as their activity dwindled, they faded from public consciousness. To re-emerge in such a manner was quite unexpected. As the Academy League voting concluded, the number of individuals at the black market surged, many drawn by the allure of these two Star Ring class mechs. Yet, the Tianwu Divine Machinery Company has merely released information about the auction format, scheduled to take place after the conclusion of the Federation Academy League. The current attendees are primarily there to gather intelligence. Once they confirmed the authenticity of the news with the Tianwu Divine Machinery Company, the underground world buzzed with fervor. The intensity of this news even began to subtly affect the daily lives of ordinary citizens in the Cloud Dream star domain. As rare high-class spacecraft and fleets began to flock to the area, the sudden influx of ships during the competition is indeed unusual. Those coming now could hardly be there merely to watch the matches. In these days, the underground world of the Federation has gone wild. Two-star Ring class mechs are enough to incite sheer frenzy. The punishment class mechs can still be somewhat manufactured, yet the Star Ring class is predominantly monopolized by various corporations and families. Otherwise, the chaotic star regions, notorious for their high number of star pirates, would not be home to merely a handful of punishment class marauders. The Star Ring class is exceptionally challenging to breach. However, given the vast population within the entire Federation star domain, there remains a considerable number of individuals lacking mechs at the punishment level. The circulation of two-star Ring class mechs in the black market is sufficient to incite frenzy among them. Such opportunities are rather rare. The significant activities in the black market have diverted their attention, leading to a notable decline in the excitement of the league. In the quarterfinals, the Galaxy Academy faced off against an institution from the Dreamcloud star region. As anticipated, the first and second years were utterly overwhelmed, even in the third year's matches. Yi Lingyin managed to secure only 2 victories, with the subsequent team matches resulting in a dismal defeat. The crushing losses left the Academy's members in a state of bewilderment. Although they had faced similar situations before, each time they experienced such dismal outcomes, it was increasingly difficult to accept, as if their years of hard work had been rendered insignificant. Li Sheng observed the dazed expressions of these young students and felt a pang of sympathy. This was not their fault. Some aspects are inherently incomparable, much like how some are born in Rome. Do not be disheartened. Our performance this year has been commendable. Li Sheng reassured them. Upon our return, the Academy will not hold you accountable. Everyone has done their utmost, and that is sufficient. Unfortunately, these words seemed to have little impact. Suddenly, Li Sheng had a thought. They must have heard the rumors surrounding the Dreamcloud black market, right? Indeed. Such sensational tidbits were most likely to capture their attention. Is it true that the black market is offering Star Ring class mechs for sale? Star Ring class. Is that genuine? I heard that a formidable individual emerged from the chaotic star region, having slain 2 Star Ring class pilots, and is now selling their mechs. Wow, how impressive. That person must be of singular caliber. The students exclaimed, with some being aware of the underground currents through their channels, while others were oblivious to the unfolding situation. Upon the dissemination of this explosive news, their prior despondency was swiftly cast aside. The news is authentic, Li Sheng concluded decisively. The black market auction will take place after the league concludes. I will take you to witness it. Seabass, your news seems a bit exaggerated, Emily remarked, astonished as he glanced at the underground forum. The Heavenly Martial Mech is also making waves. Seabass shook his head slightly, clarifying that he merely relayed the origin of these two mechs. Initially, those interested in purchasing were hesitant, but upon learning they originated from the Chaotic Star region, they cast aside their concerns. That area is a lawless zone. Once acquired, a bit of maneuvering would allow for legitimate usage. He was also surprised that Seabass would voluntarily disclose such information, as it essentially exposed his own identity. However, upon reflecting on the Chaotic Star region, it all made sense. This, alas, appears to be their means of establishing a reputation for the Chaotic Star domain. Nevertheless, it undeniably serves to enhance the visibility of this auction and attract a larger audience, prompting her to feign ignorance. The circulation of this news has significantly impacted the lawmakers, particularly Chun Yao and Meng Yang, both of whom secretly intend to advocate for federal policies to wage war on the Chaotic Star domain. After all, with a singularity-level pilot present, any attempt to conquer the area would undoubtedly result in considerable losses. Thus, resorting to warfare seems more prudent. As events have unfolded to this extent, the value of the Chaotic Star domain is secondary. What they seek is retribution, or perhaps the elimination of a singularity-level pilot who harbors animosity towards them. Currently, both find themselves in a precarious position. Had they known the singularity-level pilot was behind the Chaotic Star domain, they would have certainly refrained from such maneuvers. However, the die is cast, and the enmity is now established. Meng Yang is relatively untroubled, as two star-ring-level pilots can be dealt with. In contrast, Chen Yao bears the burden of Batter's loss, a weight he cannot easily shoulder, nor can his subordinates. Moreover, pressure from above has mounted. The supply chain must be swiftly restored. During this period, Chen Yao has been plagued by sleepless nights, his mental state visibly deteriorating. The death of Batter has already placed immense pressure upon him. And as they have reached a critical stage in their research with an increasing demand for experimental materials, his stress has only intensified. Upon hearing of the auction of Meng Yang's two star-ring-level mechs, he immediately sought to investigate. Why? Why the anonymity? Chen Yao found himself lost in contemplation. Typically, a legitimate seller would not disclose the source of their mechs. The Chaotic Star domain has effectively fallen into the hands of Mo Li and their associates. And if they wish to keep information from leaking, it would be exceedingly simple. This situation can only indicate that the information has been disseminated by their own accord. If they opted to release the news, why withhold the names? A singularity-level pilot, once revealed, would certainly attract the attention of powerful factions, and it would not be difficult for the Chaotic Star domain to gain legitimacy. Honorable Senator, should we disseminate the information that Mo Li is that pilot? Chun Yao regarded the speaker with an inscrutable expression. Do you wish to implicate the Star River Academy as well? He had also investigated Mo Li's connections to the Star River Academy, and it seemed the institution was not fully aware of Mo Li's true capabilities. The intricate web of relationships left Chun Yao feeling overwhelmed. Currently, only he and Meng Yang are privy to the identity of the super pilot in the Chaotic Star domain. Others remain in the dark. This pilot appears to have materialized out of thin air, and even their knowledge of Mo Li has not revealed any details of his origins, making it unlikely that others could ascertain them. As for exposing Mo Li's information, Chen Yao would certainly refrain from such actions. Meng Yang shared this sentiment. The relationship between the Star River Academy and Mo Li is delicate, and should this information come to light, the Academy's typical modus operandi would likely lead them to recruit Mo Li directly. They must devise a strategy to sabotage this auction. Chen Yao bowed his head in contemplation, a glint of ferocity surfacing in his eyes. Since it is an auction, Mo Li will undoubtedly be present. Perhaps this could present an opportunity. As he pondered, an unexpected communication arrived. Could it be that Batter's mech had not yet been destroyed? Chen Yao was taken aback. All the Batter people were dead. How could their mech possibly remain intact? In a battle of singularity level, regardless of the opponent's strength, there was no way one could annihilate Batter while preserving the mech. How could that be possible? Chen Yao instinctively remarked. Nothing is impossible. The voice on the other end responded coldly. I have received word that they initially intended to sell 3 mechs, but one remains undecided about the sale. 3. Chen Yao exclaimed. That day's battle had involved Batter, the Vulture, and Qiang. If indeed there were 3 mechs, it would align perfectly. Yet how could that be? Deep inside, Chen Yao still found it hard to believe. The strength of that individual surpassed our wildest imaginations. To eliminate him, it could only be when he was not in his mech. Chen Yao was dazed, his mind still grappling with that possibility. In the Yunming Star domain, refrain from taking action. They are currently on high alert. Any movement could lead to dire consequences. A shiver ran down Chun Yao's spine. Setting aside all other concerns for now, he ordered someone to establish contact and retrieve Batter's mech. The other party scoffed and abruptly ended the communication. leaving Chun Yao in a state of bewilderment. The Academy tournament concluded swiftly, with this year's champion being the Mingqin Star Domain, which outperformed others. Following the tournament, various factions sought to recruit students from the Academy, while a surge of activity flooded the black market on that particular star. For 2 consecutive days, ships traversed relentlessly, with peak landing routes forming long queues. Mo Li and Seabass had been residing in accommodations arranged by Tianwu Divine Machine during these days. That evening marked the auction. However, before it began, someone unexpectedly sought them out. Seabass knocked on Mo Li's door. "You mean someone is looking for us?" "Yes, it's likely Chun Yao's associates." Mo Li contemplated. "Your information must have had an effect. They probably wished to reclaim the echo of madness." Indeed, after the news about the Star Ring level mech was released, Seabass subtly hinted to Tianwu Divine Machine that there was another mech, and it was even better, though he did not specify its exact grade. This was intended to bait the forces behind Chun Yao. "They are approaching us with remarkable speed. Chun Yao's backers are likely formidable." Seabass's expression darkened. This was initially a test for them, and the results confirmed that their influence was indeed capable of manipulating a councilman. Mo Li and his team selling Star Ring level mechs already placed them at a high standing within Tianwu Divine Machine. Even so, someone was able to locate the two within their territory, which spoke volumes. "Should we meet?" "Yes, why not?" The information was released precisely to facilitate contact. Mo Li smiled. "The mech is not for them. This encounter is merely to gain a better understanding of the enemy." Seabass nodded slightly, and then stood up. Tianwu Divine Machine had arranged a meeting place for them. Upon arrival, they discovered a young man, who was casually reclining on the edge of the sofa with his arms spread wide, showing no intention of standing as they approached. As Lan Lan, who brought Mo Li and the others, observed the scene, her figure momentarily froze. She attempted to slightly obstruct Mo Li's and Seabass's line of sight, but unfortunately, both Seabass and Mo Li towered over her, catching sight of them at first glance. The two exchanged a knowing look, each comprehending the other's sentiment. They were disinclined to engage in conversation. "Mr. Chun Yen has arrived," Lan Lan softly reminded. "I can see that," replied the young man named Chun Yen, casting a sidelong glance at Mo Li and then taking a sip from the wine glass on the table. "Please, have a seat." "Not interested in discussing?" Mo Li asked with an enigmatic smile. "What do you mean?" Chun Yen retorted, resting his elbows on his thighs. "I came here to give you face," he added. Since Mo Li had spoken, Seabass chose to remain silent. "And you? What are you?" Mo Li had no intention of indulging him. Chun Yan's expression shifted slightly. "Chun Yao, Counselor Chun, is my brother." "Not similar." Mo Li shook his head. "Forget it. Tell him that if he truly wishes to negotiate, he should send someone less foolish." With that, he turned to leave, but at that moment, Chun Yan suddenly changed his demeanor, breaking into applause. "Truly deserving of the one who can present 2-star ring-class mechs. My apologies, I was in the wrong." He stood up and offered a straightforward apology. He had expected Mo Li and the others to graciously reconsider and reopen negotiations, but to his astonishment, Mo Li did not look back, merely waving his hand dismissively. "Save your tiresome tests, goodbye." Lan Lan, watching the scene unfold, felt a twinge of awkwardness. She had not anticipated that both parties would fail to sit down and discuss matters. Chun Yan's smile also stiffened. In his years of negotiation, he had never encountered such decisiveness. Initially, he had feigned a little to gauge Mo Li's character, intending to take a step back and maintain the discussion. Yet, unexpectedly, Mo Li had flipped the table. It was akin to two players in chess, where one had just made a move, only for the other to abruptly upend the board, uttering a curse about the futility of playing. As Chun Yan grew anxious, an unexpected realization struck him. While he was testing Mo Li's actions were equally a probe into his own resolve. If he pursued them, it would blatantly convey his desperation for this negotiation. With this thought, Chun Yan recognized he had miscalculated the strength of his counterparts. They seemed unperturbed by the prospect of impending war, their capabilities surely exceeding mere singularity levels. The upcoming council meeting was his bargaining chip, and the opposing side was well aware of this. Initially, Chun Yan had believed they would tolerate the situation due to this fact, yet it was now evident that they were utterly indifferent. As his thoughts raced, he decided to chase after them. They genuinely needed this negotiation. Perhaps the forces behind Chun Yao could exert pressure, potentially even inciting war. But he and Chun Yao could not afford such a luxury. The earlier arrogance vanished, and Chun Yan quickened his pace to reach Mo Li and his companion. "Ladies and gentlemen, I was in the wrong earlier. I sincerely apologize. Might you grant me another opportunity? We are indeed earnest in our intentions. Since the opponent has already seized the upper hand, it would be more prudent to lay everything bare and attempt to salvage a favorable impression, thereby seeking to regain initiative in subsequent negotiations." Mo Li and Seabass halted their steps, and Chun Yan instantly sensed an opportunity. regarding the echo of laughter. We are genuinely earnest in our intent to procure it. Mo Lee and his companions presented 2 mechas for sale, clearly indicating their financial desperation. We are willing to repurchase at a price 15 times its value. Mo Lee cast him a sidelong glance, remarking on the swiftness of his changing demeanor. It was evident he was a clever individual, and I have little affinity for dealing with such astute characters. Chun Yin found himself momentarily paralyzed, unsure of how to proceed, as Mo Lee was impervious to persuasion. Meanwhile, Seabass remained silently observant, showing no inclination to speak. Originally, Chun Yin had anticipated negotiating with Seabass. Having prepared his strategy based on a prior understanding of the man, he believed that, even if Seabass harbored discontent, he would exhibit some measure of forbearance, allowing Chun Yin to gradually ascertain Seabass's limits. However, he was utterly unprepared for the fact that Seabass had no intention of uttering a word. Even when Mo Lee slammed the table, Seabass's expression remained unchanged. After all, every action he took now would influence the future trajectory of the chaotic star domain. One would expect at least a flicker of emotion. Chun Yin, at this moment, was beset by self-doubt, unable to comprehend these 2 individuals. Grant me a chance. Grant me a chance. Chun Yin felt utterly bewildered, his sole desire being to retain the presence of these 2. Do you truly wish to negotiate? Mo Lee regarded him with an impassive expression. Indeed, indeed. Chun Yin nodded fervently. Very well. Begone. I see no sincerity in you. Mo Lee had no intention of negotiating further, having already acquired the information he sought. Chun Yin's countenance shifted, hastily attempting to retain him. As he reached out, Seabass swiftly swatted his hand away. The sharp pain nearly brought tears to his eyes, and upon glancing down, he noticed his hand had already turned purple. Seabass caught up with Mo Lee, and as they walked away, Mo Lee suddenly spoke. Are you not going to inquire? Mr. Mo may decide for himself. A slight smile curled at the corners of Mo Lee's mouth. They were evidently invested in this negotiation. The more they cared, the more it underscored the immense pressure exerted on Chun Yao by those behind him. As long as this understanding was established, the extent of his backers' power mattered little. Mo Lee's smile remained, an embodiment of indifference. Seabass paused, momentarily taken aback. In that moment, he perceived an absolute confidence emanating from Mo Lee. Let the auction commence. These 2-star rings are merely a beginning. After failing in negotiations, Chun Yin exhaled heavily and connected with Chun Yao. It's no use. We cannot reach an agreement. Chun Yao was not surprised. What of the information? Negotiations seldom yield immediate results. They are primarily exchanges of information. Chun Yin could only manage a wry smile. There is no information. What? Chun Yao's anger flared. Were you not tasked with gathering information? Surely the most basic details regarding the echo of laughter must be provided. They are quite adept, Chun Yin replied with a slight shake of his head. My rhythm was disrupted from the outset. Chun Yao furrowed his brow. Recent events seemed to spiral from bad to worse, particularly since the turmoil in the chaotic star domain began. Continue engaging with them. Chun Yao spoke coldly, simultaneously keeping an eye on the raucous laughter echoing around him, ensuring they did not sell to the Tianwu divine machine. I understand. The interaction with Chun Yao and his group did not go smoothly, but Mo Lee did not dwell on it, as this was likely not their final encounter. In the hours leading up to the auction, the black market was already teeming with people. Li Sheng had also reserved a private room for his students, and upon arrival, he noticed many others, much like himself, escorting groups, presumably from other academies. The Tianwu Divine Machine had prepared an expansive venue, featuring a large central stage. The auction hall was now filled to capacity, the space circular, with seating arranged around the platform. By this time, nearly everyone who could obtain information about the event had arrived. As the auction hour approached, the entire venue dimmed. A beam of light illuminated the central stage, where a strikingly beautiful woman appeared, her face radiant with a bright smile. Behind her, a colossal projection of her likeness emerged. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, you have gathered here for an auction exclusively dedicated to these 2 formidable mechas. Our seller requires payment in star coins. As she spoke, her voice took on a deep and enticing tone. So, are you all prepared? With a commanding call, she activated 2 large openings on the stage, allowing 2 immense figures, nearly 20 meters tall, to rise slowly. The flame blade tyrant and the winged apostle appeared before the crowd in a magnificent display. These mechas are the spoils of our esteemed seller. Following meticulous professional inspections, we can confidently declare that only the cockpit armor and life support systems are damaged, meaning this is a mecha in nearly pristine condition. Upon the emergence of the 2 mechas, a palpable silence enveloped the room for a brief moment. The attendees, prominent figures from various fields, were acutely aware of what such clean and precise wounds signified. The seller was likely far more formidable than they had anticipated. At this juncture, Li Sheng was also explaining to the students, remarking on the simplicity and clarity of the wounds on the 2 mechas. It appears the disparity in strength between the opposing sides in this battle was significant. Look, this wound was inflicted by a clean, decisive strike, likely caused by a high-frequency energy weapon. As a figure of authority within the academy, Li Sheng possessed a grasp of such straightforward concepts. Indeed, observe this breach. The weapon that caused it must certainly be of hegemonic technological caliber. The armor of a Star Ring-class mecha is no trifling matter. A typical Heavenly Punishment-class mecha might struggle to breach it. Li Sheng seemed to enter a realm of expertise, speaking eloquently. A student inquired, "Instructor, does our academy possess weapons capable of damaging armor of this caliber?" Li Sheng smiled subtly, affirming, "Certainly, there are several that I am aware of. For instance, the Bose-Einstein Condensate Cold Light Sword, which contrasts sharply with the traditional plasma lightsaber, emits coherent light at extremely low temperatures through a macroscopic quantum state. The condensate matter wave interacts with the material atoms, resulting in an extraordinarily intense interaction capable of instantaneously dismantling its structure. Additionally, there exists the topological defect energy blade, among others that Li Sheng enumerated, only to suddenly recall something else. Speaking of which, one of Professor Jiang Yan's technologies can achieve a similar feat. The quantum superposition state energy blade features a hilt equipped with devices that excite a multitude of high-energy particles in a specific superposition state. Upon contact, the specific state of the energy blade disrupts the atomic and molecular bonds of the target substance, inducing quantum tunneling decomposition. He chuckled, remarking that the gaps in the cockpits of these two mechas somewhat resemble the aftermath of quantum tunneling decomposition. Li Sheng laughed heartily, while Jiang Yan, nearby, wore a look of resignation. It was not merely a resemblance. It was indeed his masterpiece. The technology employed in the Crimson Judgment is precisely that of quantum superposition state energy generation. Undoubtedly powerful. Yet the high-energy particles in a specific superposition state consume an exorbitant amount of energy, necessitating the abandonment of shields for the Holy Radiance Judgment to function properly. Meanwhile, in the auction hall, the bidding for the Wingless Apostle had soared to 13 trillion star coins. It was estimated that the selling price of a Star Ring-class mecha would range around 56 trillion, with a cost of approximately 34 trillion. However, this is merely an estimate, and the market is virtually non-existent. Star Ring-class mechas have scarcely been sold, making even these battle-damaged models exceedingly exorbitant. In the backstage, Emoli was breathing heavily. His gaze sweeping across the crowd below, his eyes slightly reddened. "Should we activate the 10 directions of silence?" Xuanji timely suggested. This made Emoli's breathing even more labored. With great effort, he managed to suppress his emotions. Should he truly take action, it would surely pit him against the entire Federation. Stealth. Emoli took a deep breath, while Seabass beside him was equally astonished. He had never imagined these individuals to be so affluent. Trillions of star coins could easily form a mecha legion, and yet this was merely the price of a single Star Ring-class mecha. Ultimately, the Wingless Apostle was acquired by a mysterious buyer in a private box for 17 trillion star coins. Inside the box, Mengyang's heart bled. This enigmatic buyer was none other than herself. Though it seemed somewhat melodramatic, she could forego the Flame Blade Tyrant, but the Judgment Apostle was a must-have. 17 trillion was already an inflated price, yet there was no alternative. While others might be oblivious, she knew all too well that the Judgment Apostle was beyond reproach. These two mechas hailed from the Chaotic Star region, and news had already spread, leading many to speculate what treasures might warrant the deployment of 2 Star Ring-class mechas. The power of Star Ring-class machines predominantly lay in the hands of senators and major corporations, each a titan within their respective star regions, capable of causing tremors with even the slightest movement. Their actions, of course, would inevitably attract the attention of others. Indeed, ever since the news spread, the influx of individuals to the Chaotic Star domain has been incessant. Regrettably, apart from encountering a den of space pirates, they have unearthed nothing of significance. Moreover, due to the influence of that singularity-level superpilot, they have maintained a low profile within the Chaotic Star domain, refraining from any confrontation with the local pirates. What perplexes them is the fact that these pirates do not instigate trouble either. Meng Yang feels distressed. Her civilian image is paramount. And within this Broken Wing Apostle lies a piece of hegemonic technology that could be traced back to her. If it were to fall into the hands of the uninitiated, it would be manageable, but should it fall into the hands of her adversaries, they would undoubtedly exploit it to their advantage. 2 Star-Ring-level mechas possess the capability to drastically alter public perception of her. With the auction of the Broken Wing Apostle concluded, she sighed in relief, leaving the remaining Flame Blade Tyrant for others to purchase as they wish. As the Broken Wing Apostle descended, the remaining onlookers gazed at the Flame Blade Tyrant, their eyes alight with anticipation. This was the last one. Should they miss this opportunity, who knows when the next chance to acquire a Star Ring-level mecha would arise. With the host amplifying the atmosphere, the second round of bidding commenced. The astronomical price of 17 trillion left the members of the Star River Academy utterly astounded. Some were trembling, exclaiming, 17 trillion? My goodness. Li Sheng observed the crowd's reaction and promptly explained that starring-level mechas are typically not available for public sale, and now, it seemed, all the forces with celestial-level pilots from across the Federation had gathered. It is essential to comprehend that starring-level mechas possess the capacity to dominate a region. Executing a beheading operation would be formidable even for a hub-level fleet. Generally, a fleet at the hub level would also be equipped with starring-level pilots. The crowd finally understood, yet the starting figure in trillions still left them in awe. The Flame Blade Tyrant ultimately sold for 16 trillion. With the sale of these two mechas, Emily realized she had seemingly stepped into a phase of relative affluence. Meanwhile, the elusive Xuanji was observing quietly. Behind the scenes, she had already contacted several energy companies. As the auction concluded and the attendees dispersed, Emily stretched luxuriously, finally able to relax for a moment. Once this batch of energy is received, the 10 directions of silence can continue to operate for a while, providing Emily with greater confidence. However, regarding the universal mandate, a suffocating sense of poverty washed over her, and she instantly felt that 33 trillion was no longer appealing. If the 10 directions of silence is a gold-devouring beast, then the universal mandate is an insatiable abyss. To this day, Emily has yet to find a means of restoration. The construction technology of the universal mandate pertains to spacecraft, necessitating a complete industrial system for repairs. Currently, Emily has not yet established a solid footing, making restoration seem like a distant dream. The hull, weaponry, energy sources, and even thrusters all belong to the system of the Flame Dragon Empire. Here, she must start from scratch. The only consolation is that the 10 directions of silence is presently sufficient, with only a single threat from the insect race. Seabass, I am so impoverished. Emily exclaimed suddenly. Seabass responded. Is that even human language? Chapter 128. The auction concludes. As the auction came to a close, attendees began to disperse in an orderly fashion. Li Sheng, accompanied by the students of the academy, continued to explore the black market, driven by the desire to procure a few items for themselves. Dear students, the black market boasts a plethora of intriguing treasures. Feel free to indulge in the joys of shopping, he encouraged. However, to avert any potential deceit, please consult with your mentors before finalizing any purchases. They will assist you in discerning the quality of your selections. Upon hearing this, the students' eyes sparkled with excitement. The prospect of having their mentors oversee their transactions significantly heightened their anticipation. It is worth noting that among the academy's students, there are quite a few affluent heirs. Chen Xingxuang and Su Wanyuan promptly sought out Qin Wanga, and the trio set off together to shop. In truth, they were not alone in this endeavor. Students from other academies followed suit. This has become a customary practice among students, as the black market opens annually during the league competition. However, this year, due to the presence of 2 star-class mechas, the market was notably more vibrant. Mr. Wu, do you seem troubled? As they strolled, Seabass could not help but inquire upon noticing Mo Li's despondent demeanor. The main concern lay within the operations of Tianwu Mecha. The recent auction yielded no commission, save for the condition of preferential selection for future super mechas. The profits far exceeded Seabass's expectations, yet Mo Li remained disheartened. Upon hearing Seabass's question, Mo Li forced a smile and replied, "It's nothing, merely some sorrowful thoughts." Seabass felt a pang of concern. Even someone as formidable as Mr. Mo could experience sadness? Let us not dwell on that. Instead, let us seek a spaceship. Continuously relying on that vessel is not ideal. It only accommodates 4 mecha bays, which is rather insufficient. Seabass nodded slightly at this suggestion. If we are in search of a spaceship, we might consider the Starry Trail Group's ships. Is that one of the 3 major conglomerates? Do they have a branch here as well? Mo Li inquired, astonished. In the Federation, aside from the division of power among the legislators, numerous companies and groups exist, with the 3 major firms standing out as exceptionally formidable. Tianwu Mecha focuses on mecha technology, the Starry Trail Group excels in spacecraft and warship domains, and the Virtual Weavers Company maintains the operation of the Star Network. Each of these giants thrives in its respective field, their paths seldom crossing. There are indeed instances of internal corruption, leading to the clandestine resale of ships at prices lower than market rates. Lower? Emily echoed in surprise. Indeed, as they often face scrutiny. However, with your affiliation to the Star River Academy, you are regarded as a VIP at Tianwu Mecha, making registration quite straightforward. Then what are we waiting for? The Starry Trail Group's premises were not far from the auction site, and soon the two arrived. The branch of the Starry Trail Group spanned 2 floors. The first floor showcased spaceships while the second was dedicated to warships. The distinction between the two was minimal. Warships primarily offered more space for various weaponry, whereas spaceships were designed for cargo transport. Upon entering the first floor, they found a spacious area filled with exhibition stands, each approximately 33 square meters, displaying virtual projections of an array of spaceships. By the time they arrived, a considerable number of patrons were already present. Rock solid. Do you have any recommendations? Mr. Wu inquired. What features are you looking for? A spacious design and swift flight. Are you two here to view spacecraft? The girl, with shoulder-length hair and clad in the uniform of the Starry Trail group, approached them with a warm smile. Behind her, a few individuals had just concluded attending to visitors, and, upon noticing the absence of others nearby, promptly made their way over. Embracing the philosophy that professional tasks should be entrusted to experts, Emily asked, "What types do you offer?" Dun Yinshu, leading the way, replied, "For large cargo vessels, I highly recommend our Forged Titan series of spacecraft. These vessels possess ample size. If you are considering them for a small team, I would suggest opting for the Kilometer-class models." The trio arrived at a display, where a colossal spacecraft loomed before them. Dun Yinshu activated the vessel. Placing one hand on the rear thruster, and with a deft movement of her fingers, the ship's modules began to disassemble automatically. One of the modules gleamed like a radiant star. Our Forged Titan series spacecraft utilize our proprietary Forge core, which boasts an exceptionally high energy output. In a fully charged state, continuous warp travel for a year is entirely feasible. In terms of speed, the Forge core is also a significant advantage, as its output power rivals that of standard medium-sized vessels. The two listened intently, while Emily pondered deeply. Regarding space, the rear section of the ship offers substantial room, with the largest cargo hold measuring 50 meters in height, 700 meters in length, and 260 meters in width. Additionally, there are numerous smaller storage spaces, so space will not be a concern. Seabass nodded slightly, acknowledging the impeccable spatial design of Starry Trail. Emily, equally impressed, inquired, "How much does it cost?" Dun Yinshu's smile brightened. "This spacecraft is priced at 13 billion star coins, but given today's black market event, I can offer you a 95% discount." "What?" Emily nearly jumped in disbelief. "That's the price of a heavenly grade mech." "Indeed, sir, but the purposes of mechs and spacecraft differ, making direct comparisons challenging," she clarified. Emily discreetly exchanged a knowing glance with Seabass. "Mr. Wu, in comparison, this spacecraft is indeed quite affordable." Emily's expression wavered as calculations raced through his mind. 13 billion seemed reasonable for the vessel's capabilities, yet he recalled seeing a similar craft online in the South Ming star domain, priced 300 million less. Emily's eyes widened. The South Ming star domain. That's exceedingly far, but 300 million, such a substantial amount. As he wrestled with his thoughts, a few individuals approached nearby, laughing and admiring the spacecraft. One of them seemed to notice Emily's predicament and remarked to the girl beside him, "Sister Royale, don't be fooled by Mo Xiao's unblinking gaze when purchasing mechs. That's due to his formidable strength. Most others are like that person over there, hesitating even when faced with the lowest price spacecraft. Comparing my food delivery service to JD, Matewan, Taobao, and ELE, me is rather similar," Jiang Ruiyao remarked, her eyes sparkling as she gazed at Emo-chun. "Impressive, brother Emo-chun." Emo-chun nodded lightly. "You desire a sleek, high-speed small spaceship, correct? Feel free to choose." Emily's forehead twitched with annoyance, exclaiming, "What a bunch of kids. Do they not comprehend the essence of frugality?" His fists clenched tightly. "In the 129th instance," he mused, "surely he isn't here, is he? If it weren't for the extravagant Xuanji, I might very well be a modest tycoon by now." Suddenly, Xuanji interjected. "I have a plan." "What is it?" Emily asked instinctively. From my observations of their conversations, it appears that Emo-chun is a classic case of a fool with abundant wealth, and he has a particular fondness for beautiful women. "Stop." Emily interrupted Xuanji abruptly. "Don't continue." Regrettably, Emily's expression darkened further. 300 million is still somewhat acceptable. Buying it outright is feasible, though it would surely sting my heart. Then this shall be the one. After much contemplation, Emily made up his mind, only to hear a voice from afar. "Royale, dear sister, this is merely posturing. Purchasing such a spaceship will likely burden one with immense debt." Emily's fists tightened once more. "What the hell are you barking about?" he shouted, turning to scold Wu Zixuan, who had been chattering with Jiang Ruiyao. Wu Zixuan was momentarily taken aback, as Emily directed his ire at him. "Are you referring to me?" Wu Zixuan instinctively pointed to himself. "Of course. Just focus on purchasing your items and refrain from causing a ruckus here." Emily was in no mood for nonsense. After all, this was a staggering sum of 300 million, and the thought of it vanishing with a mere nod was painfully disheartening. To make matters worse, that brat insisted on provoking him. The remaining companions of Emo-chun were equally startled, as they seldom encountered such brazen insults. "How uncouth. Jiang Royao clung to Mo Chen's shoulder, a hint of fear flickering across her face. Fear not, Mo Chen reassured her, patting her shoulder while subtly adjusting his expression to maintain an air of stoicism. After Mo Li's confirmation, Wu Zixuan's countenance turned completely grim. Where does this pauper come from? Hesitating over a spaceship purchase, who but a destitute would do such a thing? He regarded Mo Li with disdain. Mo Li's expression darkened further. These little brats were utterly arrogant, unable to discern who truly held influence. However, observing their haughty demeanor ignited a thought within him. You possess wealth? Of course. I am. Wu Zixuan instinctively began to introduce himself, only to be halted by another boy, Zhou Yuheng, who shook his head slightly. Recalling they were in the black market, Wu Zixuan quickly altered his statement. I certainly have money, and far more than you could imagine. Oh, anyone can boast, Mo Li remarked, while Xuanji rapidly assessed Wu Zixuan's character traits. Upon completion, she preliminarily classified him as foolish. Mo Li nearly lost his composure. It was rare to witness Xuanji express such a subjective judgment about someone. At that moment, Wu Zixuan felt his anger boiling over, ready to retort, when Mo Chen placed a hand on his shoulder and gently pushed him behind himself. My apologies, our friend struggles with articulation. Not only was Mo Li bewildered, but Wu Zixuan and the others were equally perplexed. Mo Li found himself unable to unleash any subsequent tactics, while Wu Zixuan dared not refute him and could only suppress his frustration. At that moment, Mo Li's mind raced. Xuanji, was it not said that fools are wealthy? Correction. It should be the wealthy who are foolish. He ought to have discerned that one was attempting to ensnare another. Mo Li was astonished. Xuanji had misjudged. However, regarding this Mo Chen, their acquaintance was still in its infancy, and Xuanji had too little information to avoid such misjudgment. Mo Chen appeared to be no simple character. Realizing the deception was futile, Mo Li could only sigh softly and coldly admonish, mind your tongue next time. Wu Zixuan's eyes widened in disbelief, nearly on the verge of an outburst, but upon seeing Mo Chen's expression, he could only refrain. Apologies. Faced with the situation, Wu Zixuan could only muster the courage to say, yes, my apologies. This is rather challenging. Indeed, Seabass beside them nodded in agreement. Mo Chen was entirely denying Mo Li an opportunity to retaliate. Seeing this, Du Nianchu hastily interjected, excuse me, sir, shall I take you to see the spaceship? Mo Li was not one to stubbornly cling to his pride. Maintaining a frosty demeanor, he turned and left. Of course, that was merely on the surface. Privately, he inquired, Xuanji, have you committed that young man's visage to memory? It has already been entered into the database. The target has been identified. Wu Zixuan, son of Wu Wanqian, the second shareholder of Titan Star Shield Heavy Industries. Very well, Titan Star Shield Heavy Industries, do not let me catch you. It was only after Mo Li and the others departed that Wu Zixuan could not contain his curiosity any longer. Mo Chen, why did you stop me? Such a pauper deserves a lesson. Do not provoke conflict in the black market. You might not live to regret it. Mo Chen shot him a cold glance. Initially, he had been quite angry, but later, he sought to extract information from him. This individual could be linked to underground forces. Allowing such a person to discover your true identity is tantamount to inviting assassination. Wu Zixuan was instantly drenched in cold sweat. Though the Federation appeared tranquil, dark currents surged beneath the surface, with the congressmen resembling maggots, gnawing away at the giantess' flesh. These underground forces had risen accordingly, each one lawless, and his identity would only attract more desperate rogues. Once Wu Zixuan regained his composure, he expressed his gratitude profusely. Meanwhile, Mo Li and Seabass had exited the black market, arriving at a space station on a distant planet. Spaceships, naturally, were exchanged at space stations, and this particular one belonged to the Xinxiong Hanji Group, featuring over a dozen spaceports. Du Nianchu guided the two to one of the spaceports and introduced them to the vessels. Upon receiving the data, Xuanji quickly compared it with others. This spaceship was indeed remarkable, and with no hesitation, the affluent Mo Li proceeded to make the payment. However, upon noticing that 1/3 of his balance had vanished during the transaction, Mo Li was nearly rendered speechless. Xuanji, you spendthrift. With the Academy tournament and black market auction concluded, various factions embarked on their journeys home, while Mo Li and Seabass returned to the chaotic star region. The spacecraft has been equipped with a brand new vessel, while the one that arrived has been sent to the second-hand market by Seabass. The 4 mechas that came have now been reduced to 2, and Mo Li has made quite a profit. However, he cannot afford to rest. The Chaos Starfield is already established, and Mo Li still hopes to see if there are any fish to catch. Yet, while no fish were caught in the Chaos Starfield, it turned out that they were the ones who had caught something. After departing from the Yunming Starfield and entering the Inua Starfield, the ship had not been traveling long before it was forcibly pulled out of its warp state by a curvature speed field. A vessel several thousand meters long exited stealth mode, and communication was initiated. Are you the people from the Chaos Starfield? Come out and talk. Don't think of resisting. We have a Star Ring level pilot stationed here. Your Singularity level pilot should still be in the Chaos Starfield, right? Hearing the confident voice from the other end of the channel, Emo, Lee, and Seabass exchanged a glance, one filled with resignation, the other with excitement. Connect. Emoli urged eagerly. The communication request was accepted, and a man with a buzz cut appeared on the screen. Hello, you may call me Loxun. No need to remember this name. It's just an alias, Loxun greeted with a smile. To dispatch a